Often. Well, I definitely did botch that. Yo. It's your boy. You as you know.
Boy, O-Rain, real name, no games, no gimmicks.
Yo, it's the motherfucking Fade Podcast, the one-stop shop for everything TV, media, info related, along with any of the goddamn thing we want to talk about. Coming to you live direct, Proof of Concept Studios. What in the fuck's up, man? I did not get my timing off right there. I hate when timing doesn't line up, you know what I mean? Like, when you're off just a tick, you know? I hit the intro thinking that I already unmuted the mics, but I didn't, so I had to run over there, and I was like, fuck. It's called a botch.
I like how you said I had to run over there.
I did.
Even though we're sitting down.
It's literally
It's
6
right
inches from where I'm. Yo, what's good, man? How's life?
Yo, all is well, man. I've been having a good week. I can't.
Yeah.
It's one of those weeks where it's like, like, I'm okay. It could be worse. Could be better. But I'm not going to complain about that. I saw Morbius. So I know it could be worse.
Yo, what was the consensus?
Oh man, I don't know what's worse, Venom or Morbius. But like,
there's people who like Venom, though,
which is
stunning, right?
Yeah, it's like, explain it to me. I want to let's have a conversation.
Let me hear it from you.
Yeah, I want to take you out to dinner and let's have a real in-depth conversation about this thing.
Yeah.
It was like incoherent. It was choppy. It was at a certain point, like, do you know how in certain movies, like, they use that certain sound effects to create the a level of intensity or anxiety, whatever, right? Like they'll do the thing just before something like blows up or explodes. Like they did it a lot in Transformers, right? Yeah. They used that sound effect so much in this movie to like create the sense of something's about to happen when nothing happened at all. And I'm like, at a certain point, I started to realize it. I'm like, they keep using that sound effect, or they keep using sound effects to create an emotion, but then they do not deliver upon that emotion with like the next scene or the next conversation or whatever is happening in the film. Yeah. And like it just started to really annoy me throughout the movie. Yeah. And you know what's crazy? I never fall asleep in the movie theaters.
You almost fell asleep?
Yo, I, at least 2 times, I was out for like 5 minutes. I never do that because I love movies. I love going to the movie theaters. One of my favorite things to do. In this movie, I just couldn't. Maybe it's because I smoked before, but I've done that 100 times.
You see, that's probably what it was.
No, bro, listen, I smoked before I watched both Batmans. I remember the first time when I saw the Batman, I just missed the last 20 minutes. I was like, I'm going to go back and watch the whole thing in theaters. Smoked again, stayed awake the whole time. It was great. Morbius, the movie was like an hour and 36 minutes. Couldn't stay awake.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is what it is, you know. Some movies, they're going to move you. You're going to be into it. Other movies, you're just going to be like, fuck it. We're going to talk about here in a moment or two. I'm going to talk about West Side Story because I just watched that.
Did you see it? I can't bring myself to.
Why?
First of all, I don't like singy dancy shit anyway. You know what I mean? I'm not like a Grease guy. I'm not like I didn't watch, what is that show? That was
Glee?
Glee, yeah. I'm not a Glee person.
I mean, come on. West Side Story is come on. That's classic. It's a classic. Jets,
cool.
Sharks.
Yeah, listen. No.
I'm
it doesn't
so
do it
pretty.
For me.
Oh, so pretty. No.
Yeah, doesn't do it for me.
No. Okay. No.
I respect. I mean, I watched was it In the Heights?
Yeah, In the Heights.
Right?
In the Heights was dope. I like it.
In the Heights was good, but like that's testing. That is at the max of what I can do when it comes to the singy dancy shit.
What's the difference between that and like West Side Story?
I don't know. At least one was at least like newer, right? I'd never seen the Heights. I've seen West Side Story, the original.
The original.
But so I'm like, I've seen the original. I'm not gonna watch the remake.
Why not? It's the same shit. You're watching the same
exactly.
Shit. I don't get. Okay, fair enough.
If I already don't like it, I'm definitely not gonna watch the new version of it.
Okay.
I didn't like the original.
So. I mean, maybe the new version will have something that the original didn't have for you.
No, come on. Not if it's a remake. If it's like a
part Scarface
2.
Is a remake, right?
Was that?
Scarface is a remake.
Sure, but it's like the original came out like 1950 or something like that. I never saw the original. Yeah. But if I saw the original Scarface and I didn't like it, I probably wouldn't be like inclined to see the remake.
What? If you saw the original Scarface, you would not be inclined. You hear Pacino's a part of it. You hear.
If I saw the original and I didn't like the story at all, and I was like, "Yo, this film is not that good," if they remake it, I'm not gonna be like, okay, I'm all in now. I'd be like, nah, I didn't like the original. I'm probably not gonna like this shit.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't. I don't know because I feel like I judge the original. I judge the remake differently than I do the original. Like it's kind of like a Total Recall, right?
But you'd have to see it to judge it, though, right? But before you see it, you have to get to the point where you're willing to see it. And I feel like for me, if I didn't like the original version of a film,
Yeah.
and I'm like, and they just remake it, I probably won't even. It'll be difficult to get me to the point where I'm like, all right, I'm willing to invest time and money into seeing the remake, even though I didn't like the original.
Okay, not my philosophy, but I respect your philosophy though. So I watched West Side Story. We'll talk about it here in a sec. But the initial review is that at least, and I got to go back and watch the original. Not that I have to, but I want to go back and watch the original just to see how much is like different. But I don't really suspect all that much else was different. And so it really does leave me, like, it begs the question of, like, well, why remake it then? If you're not going to change anything fundamentally about it, if it's all going to remain the same. Now, all the key points, I think, are still there, if I'm remembering correct. But I have to go back to watch the original to really, like, make that assertion. But it didn't really feel like they changed too much, if anything at all. Spielberg, it felt like just hit all the same marks as the original. They just had new people and new lights and shit. Like, that's pretty much it.
What a way to double up on the bag. Like, if you still getting paid for the original and they remake it, you get paid for that too, and it's the same shit.
Do you mean like, oh, you know it's based off of a book? I didn't know that. I didn't know West Side Story was based off a book. I guess it's a book that turned into a play that then turned into a movie.
That feels right. That sounds about right. Yeah.
Does I didn't know this. I thought it was just a play that turned.
You know, certain movies you can tell, like, okay, yeah, I get that may have been a book first and this is adopted to film, and certain other ones it's like, no, it's just a movie.
Adopted to film.
Yeah, they adopted it. Adapted? Is that it?
They didn't take the movie in.
They might have. I'm a bad writer, and it's like you don't deserve that film.
Anyways, dude, let's get into the shit, man. So let's talk about some headline stuff, man. A lot of stuff coming out this week. We got Sonic 2 comes out this week. Ambulance comes out this week, which I've heard decent reviews of, surprisingly. Yeah. It seems like, I mean, it's a Michael Bay joint, so it seems like the standard fare. You know what the fuck you're going to get with the Michael Bay movie. There's nothing. They even have a word for Bayhem, I believe. Is
Bayhem is just explosions and gunshots and just
reckless shit happening.
I want to see that movie.
Yeah.
I try and convince my girlfriend to see it with me. She's like, yo, no, like, I don't. She just doesn't like action movies, and she's like, it's just like violence and explosions. And I'm like, but she likes horror movies, and it's like, yo, okay, the house is haunted, the little girl's dead, like same shit.
You know what movie she might be interested in is, it's not a horror movie, but it's a weird movie that I definitely want to see because it's got to do with a lot of shit that I'm into right now. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. I know you remember we watched. We
really like that movie title.
Yeah,
with who's it? Not Sandra. Oh, who's in the movie?
No. I forget her. I gotta go look her name up to know. But she's been in a few different things.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell you her name off the top of my head, but
I'm definitely gonna see that movie.
It looks exciting, dude.
Is it like in theaters only?
I believe it is in theaters only.
I will see that. It deals with like time travel and like multiple, the multiverse. Essentially,
we're exploring the multiverse in this particular movie, and it looks bonkers. Like, it just looks like, and I'm amazed that I used the word bonkers, but it just looks like there's a lot here.
Yeah,
and
surprisingly fun too.
Yeah. It looks like it's just a weird, quirky movie from A24. I believe it's from A24. So I definitely want to check that out this week. All the Old Knives with Chris Pine. And I believe, and she said we were pronouncing her name wrong this entire time, but I guess I.
Who's she?
Thaddy. She's fuck. Do you watch her Westworld?
No. I think I know who you're talking about though.
Yeah, it's like, God, now I gotta look her name up because I would.
She was also in. Wasn't she in Dune or something like that?
No, I don't think she was in Dune. Hold on, I gotta.
She looks like that woman. Who's that woman Mike Tyson married, and then they got divorced like 24 hours later? She looks like Robin Givens, kind of.
A little bit. Thadwi Newton. I'm probably butchering her name. She already said we pronounced her name wrong, so yeah, I'm probably.
Wait, she said it.
She
listened
said
to the show.
She said No, not the podcast, but people in general. That people have been pronouncing her name wrong, like basically this entire time. And so yeah, whatever. I feel bad about that, but I don't actually know exactly how it should be pronounced. But in any event, that comes out this week. Also, premiering this week is the third season of, I don't know if you've watched this, but a Black Lady sketch show. Have you watched it? I've only seen little skits in here and there online. I haven't actually watched the full show, but I think I'm gonna check it out.
Where do you find it?
HBO. It's on HBO
Okay.
Max.
A Black Lady sketch show?
Yeah, Black Lady sketch show. So it's been on for what they're entering, I guess, their third season. And I saw when they were coming out with it, and I was like, oh, I should check that out, and I just never did. But now that this third season, and I actually like when a show comes out with a few seasons before I actually check it out, so that I can just get through it. Like I don't have to like sit here and fucking, oh god, I gotta wait till next week to check out. Or I hate when it's like they come out with all the entire season all at once, because that also doesn't feel necessarily fulfilling. So I like when I can check out the seasons of the show, know that it's coming back for another season, check out that first episode of that new season, and then follow it thereafter. I think that's the best.
Yeah, I like whenever I finish a show and I'm looking for something new, whether it's on Netflix or Hulu or HBO or wherever, like I often do look for shows that have at least 2 or 3 seasons out, so that because it sucks finding a really good show and there's only one season. It's like you watch all 10, 12 episodes. You might do that in a weekend, or you might do it over the course of a month, but then you got to wait 6 months for season 2 to come out. And it's like, I want to find something with seasons 1, 2, and 3 already out. I know season 4 is coming. So it's like, okay, this shit has to be good if they renewed it for season 4.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, that's coming out this week as well. Next week, they're coming out with Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. Look, I don't have any interest. I don't know. Harry Potter is one of the things that I just have not been able to get into. I swear, I've tried multiple times to really just dive in, but I was never into the books. I was never into the movies. And so now that all this time has passed, it feels like I've missed the wave. It feels like now I'm extending myself to, and you know me, I like to go back and watch shit. I have no interest in Harry Potter.
I've seen the first 3 or 4 movies. I think I read, what is it? The Sorcerer's Stone, Prisoners of Azkaban, and
I've read the Sorcerer's Stone, but I haven't read anything past that though.
What is this? Is Sorcerer's Stone, Prisoners of Azkaban? The third book, I forgot what it's called. Yeah. And so I've seen at least 3 or 4 movies.
White Wizard.
I've read
that has different connotations.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the first 3 books that I read. But after that, it just kind of fell off to me. I'm sure it got better, the storylines and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But for me, I was just I'm no longer interested in this thing, and it feels like going back now and trying to rewatch all the Harry Potters.
Feels like an investment.
And I feel like
I'm waiting for the next snow day.
You got to read the books too. You know what I mean? I'm not going to do that. And then I got to watch the shows. And then there's the Fantastic Beasts spin-off series. And it's holy shit.
The Fantastic Beasts is really interesting because not only do they have, or I guess they replaced Johnny Depp, I guess in the latest incarnation, but also in it is Ezra Miller. And he clearly is wrapped up in some shit lately. We're going to talk about him a little later in the show. We're going to compare him and the Will Smith situation. Now, if one does believe that they are being canceled, which I will argue that word has lost all meaning whatsoever.
Yeah. It's been used so much
on
God. The smallest things.
It's people are mad at you. You're being canceled. It's I don't think people being mad at you equals you being canceled.
Definitely not.
I think that Anyways, we'll talk about that later. So Outer Range season 1 is dropping next week, which actually we're going to review the trailer for it coming up here in a few minutes. The Kardashians, I thought the show was just over.
Yeah,
I thought it was over, but apparently they just moved to Hulu.
I've been seeing a lot of the Kardashians promo shit on Hulu.
Yeah,
are they doing a whole new season?
I guess it's a new. Well, I don't know if it's a new season so much as it's just a new show, but it's just the same shit. I guess.
Listen, I admire their ability to capitalize on their personal lives.
Yeah.
Because they're probably this shit with Kanye and Pete Davidson is insane.
Oh my!
We gotta film it,
cash
in on it. Yeah. What else is going on? And then Courtney's dating the drummer dude.
Yeah, from Blink 182.
Yeah,
right?
and then Chloe. What's going on with Chloe? I don't know.
is it
She's
Tristan?
Chloe. Yeah.
Is it I don't know
Oh
is it
yeah, Tristan got
Lamar?
somebody
What is
else
it?
pregnant,
Yeah.
and she's like, there's a whole that whole Jordan Woods thing. It's funny how Tristan just kept cheating on her, and she like never apologized
You know
about
what?
the whole Jordan Woods thing.
I don't really.
He's got a whole nother baby coming.
Yeah,
Good for him.
I don't know. Like I don't know anything about the whole Kardashian situations outside of like the
I've just
main
seen it on
event
E
shit.
and,
Yeah,
and Shade Room and shit.
yeah. But I think what I do, the whole thing happened with Kim Kardashian like a few weeks ago, right? Where she said you have to get to, people don't want to work these days.
Oh yeah.
But you see, but here's the thing though. I feel like people oftentimes look at everything through their own point of view, right? Through our lens, when Kim Kardashian says that, we look at her like, shut the fuck up. What are you talking about? You didn't really work for anything. You basically started out on third base and then kind of cartwheeled your way to home, right? Now, she did make the most of her opportunity. And so that's the way we look at her is that, okay, she made the most of her opportunities, but also you had a massive leg up, both just with your family as well as who your friends were, yada, yada, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is nobody looked at it from her point of view, meaning that from this whole socialite, like reality TV star, social media person, from her point of view, the people that she's talking to in that moment, I'm sure isn't like the maid, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure it's the people who just hop on IG and think that, oh, they're about to make a bag just by being on IG and not doing a goddamn thing else. And all they have to do is just be them. You know?
So you think she was talking to a certain
That's
audience?
because who else is she really going to be like?
Well, so I think why her comment rubbed people the wrong way. She was like, she basically said like, I had the best advice for women in business, right? She was not talking about like women on social media. She's talking like women who like are entrepreneurs and business owners.
But in her business, those are the people she's talking to. Those are her.
Sure, but I think
counterparts.
Because I heard the interview clip, right? I don't think she was talking about women specifically like in her industry, like in like makeup and hair products and things like that. I think she was talking about like women in business in today's.
No, I guess I guess that's what I'm saying is that she's looking at the whole thing as like a business, right? Whereas I think like I can imagine like she's not talking about like who else would she be talking about? Like, is she going to be talking about other counterparts in what we think like the corporate world? Like, no, because like they're hustling, like they're doing their thing.
No,
like,
I think
they're in the corporate world.
Again, I think she was talking about women in business in general, not in like a specific industry. She was just saying women in business.
Well, I think what she clarified,
and like
she clarified her
entrepreneurs.
she clarified her statements thereafter, and basically said essentially what I'm saying now, which is she was talking to a particular set, not a set of women, but like. She was talking to women who think that they're just going to hop on IG or wherever else and think that they're going to make a bag and not know that there's a lot of other shit that goes into it.
I think her clarification on the back end came because of how negatively.
Oh yeah, for sure. She had to come out.
Yeah, hindsight's 2020. So you could say like, oh no, I didn't mean that. I was talking to like these particular group of people. But like, I feel like I'm pretty sure what she was talking about is like she fancies herself like this like business savant. Like I'm self-made. I built myself from the ground up. I'm a hardworking businesswoman. And a lot of times people like that don't acknowledge, or they don't like to acknowledge the fact that like, hey, like I had a huge head start, massive head start. And that is part of my success. I'm not going to undermine Kim Kardashian.
I think that's what we impress upon her. Like I'm sure that there's a bit of narcissism or whatever you want to call it from her point of view. But I think that we more view her as like, oh, she's famous for nothing. When in reality, I think she most 100%, like she definitely is famous for essentially nothing. But she was able to monetize that in a way that almost nobody else was able to. Yeah. She was able to flip the Ray J sex tape into a positive for herself. She was able to flip that relationship with Paris Hilton.
I don't think that she's famous for nothing. I think you don't get to where she is by being like absolutely stupid and useless and like you don't know what you're like. I think like she's made a lot of smart business deals. I think she's branded and marketed herself in a great way. She's launched products, very smart and strategic partnerships. But it's easier. It's easy to be successful when you have a huge head start.
100%, yeah.
And a lot of times people, for example, the Donald Trumps, right? He'll say, "Oh, I was self-made and I built my business from the ground up." Where it's like, what you're not talking about your father and how he gave you $1 million in 1970.
Nah, you got more than that.
Yeah, several million. But like you're not acknowledging that. You're just acknowledging the work you did afterwards when you had a huge head start.
Yeah,
most of it was just failures.
Well,
Trump Steaks, Trump Airlines, Trump
look,
University.
Man, look, man, people, and I'll talk shit about Trump until the day I die. But like the greatest magician in the world to make people believe that you are ultra smart, ultra successful, ultra, honestly, arguably even like rich, because it's arguable that he even actually, I guess I'm sure now he's probably a billionaire because he was able to just pillage his time in the White House. But I think he's the greatest magician. Yeah, I mean, in the world,
what an illusion!
Jesus
and
Christ.
Crazy thing is, there are a lot of people who still believe it.
To have people believe that I'm for the working man, knowing good and goddamn well that you've pissed away hundreds of millions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
But you've also gotten that back through people just thinking that you. Oh yeah, no, I'll give you this loan. It's fine.
And then audio leaks where he's like making fun of like working class people and Americans, but my supporters are dumb and like,
because they are.
And then he comes back out and he's like, oh, I didn't mean that. That was mischaracterized, or that's fake audio.
And then everybody just moves on.
They're like, we believe him.
It's crazy.
I got to give it to him. He is a magician. He is an illusionist.
In any case, the Kardashians set to premiere next week on Hulu. Let's talk about some other shit, dude. I know you're not a wrestling person. WrestleMania 38 was this past weekend. I'm not. I don't really keep up with current wrestling at all. But I will have to say, because I tuned in because I heard Stone Cold was he was gonna have his last match, or at least it was the potential for him to have his last match, and he ended up having a match. It was fucking awesome. Vince McMahon came out. Had a match at like 70. I think he's like 76 years old.
Gotta admire Vince McMahon.
Holy shit,
still working.
And then in a shock, and I guess spoiler alert for anybody who didn't watch it, which it's impossible by now, but to even just have heard about it. But so Vince McMahon, he won the match. It was against Pat McAfee of all people. And Pat McAfee, he went, dude. Like he had a match and he did some things. It was like he did a fucking backflip off the turnbuckle. It's like, what the fuck? like I know he's clearly he's an athlete, but he's a punter. So you're just like, this guy. He's not
I forgot he was a punter.
Athlete. Yeah, he was a punter. And if you need to grab something, I can stall for my on my own. But so Vince McMahon then has a match with Pat McAfee, and then he wins the match, and then all of a sudden the glass shatters. You hear Stone Cold come out. It feels like we're in 1998 all over again. And then he proceeds to give Vince McMahon the stunner. But oh my God, this is where the age showed for McMahon. He kicked him in the gut. McMahon just crumbled to the ground. You know how Stone Cold usually kicks him and then he stuns him. So he kicked him, and then McMahon just fell to the ground, and then he got back up, and then Stone Cold had to like wrestle him into the stunner.
Come on, get in here. Come on. Get in here.
Oh man!
On three. Then he stuns him.
But it was so funny because like you could see Stone Cold laughing the entire time after that, and it was just like so. It was nostalgia. It was hilarious. Yeah, it was just everything.
That's probably one of those things that's just fun to watch. Like both of these guys are just like old legends, but it's like. God. I'll let you sell it to me.
Yeah, and you don't mind. You don't mind that they botched it a little bit. You're just like, whatever. This is fucking awesome.
I'll let you sell it to me. It's one of those things.
So it was like my first time really watching some of the current wrestling. At least from the WWE. I don't really watch AEW or anything like that. Ever so often, I catch a thing or two from them. But anyways, I don't know. Like it brought me back to be like. Wrestling's kind of fucking dope. Like, it's dangerous as fuck, and I get anxiety every time that I watch a match now. Like, fuck, dude. Like, I almost have to watch the old wrestling just to know that I know what's going to happen here. Because watching the new shit, you're just like, I don't know. Somebody, like Big E, I don't know if you heard about that, but he just got a broken neck. He was part of the New Day. I don't know if you know who that is, but he's a black wrestler who was just the WWE champion for a little bit of a stretch there. He just had a broken neck, so they're expecting him back. And it was off of like just some random shit,
I'm trying to pretend like I know what you're
fine.
talking
It's
about.
Fine. It's fine. I just look. Long story
but
short,
as long as it makes you happy.
long story short, WrestleMania 38 was this past week, and I didn't really like make a point to even check it out. I even forgot that it was happening this weekend, but I through social media and stuff, I was just like, oh shit, that's happening, and I tuned in, and it was cool to watch. It was really good to watch. Let's talk a little bit about 50 Cent's beef with Stars. 50's always pissed at Stars. Like, this is a really toxic relationship. You know, we talked a lot. You know, the last week's episode was called Toxic Relationships. I believe that 50 Cent's relationship with Stars is indeed a toxic relationship. Seems like there's always something going on there.
I also think 50 is...
He's just a toxic person to begin with.
Yeah, I feel like Stars has to know who they're dealing with here. This is like, you know, this is the guy who used to be a rapper who's now really just an internet bully.
Yeah, he's just, he really is just a bully.
I feel like he takes all of his issues or problems to social media because, you know, you can, like, you know, if you win the public, if you stay in the public eye and you have public favor, usually these companies will, like, fold to your, or at least bend to your will, right? We know 50's... He's the reason we have power. Well, I mean, not, you know, who's the writer on it?
Not the writer, but the
Courtney
creator,
Kemp.
Courtney Kemp. Yeah.
But, you know, he is like really seen as the face of the show, right?
Sure.
And then we got BMF, and then there's like the ABC show. Like 50's doing a lot of shit. So if, you know, let's say he tells all of his viewers like, yo, cancel your Stars memberships because they're trying to fuck me out of some money, and like they don't like black people, you know, whatever he wants to say. Yeah. Like Stars knows that, hey, this could be a huge issue for us. So like let's do what we could do to keep this guy happy, even if he's being a complete dick about it. I don't think the relationship between 50 and Stars is as toxic as 50 would make it seem, but I do think that he is fine to make it look that way. So he can always be viewed as like the person who is in the right, or he's the victim, or something along those lines. I could be wrong. It could be very toxic, but I feel like for him, it works in his benefit to seem like, hey, they're fucking me out of my money. They're not treating me right. Where it's probably just like, yo, I wanted 120 million. They only gave me 110.
Yeah. So his current beef with them is actually twofold. It's because they essentially leaked, which I actually don't know how this happens, but they leaked an episode of I'm not sure which Power spinoff it is. I think it's Power Book 4.
Tommy's story. Force?
I think so. So let me read a little bit here. 50 Cent took to social media on Monday to express frustrations with Stars regarding his hit series Power. The rapper turned entertainment mogul had some choice words for the network after learning that an episode of the spinoff Power Book 4 Force allegedly leaked early for Stars subscribers. So apparently this happened before as well with I believe BMF. This happened with where an episode got leaked. And so basically he just called them idiots. He was just like, literally the direct words is, see, they leaked the episode again. These people are incompetent. Yo, come on. I can't sit in a fucking boardroom meeting with you after you just straight up called me incompetent. I'm not, come on.
Let's be real. That word gets thrown around in business meetings all the time. So I don't feel like
you can't straight up call me. It's different when you subtly imply it of like, you know, we can't take for any sort of incompetence in this situation. Like, it's different when you say shit like that than like, hey, you're incompetent, right? Like, I can't do business with you, but I got kids that know you just called me incompetent.
Unless you're doing business with Anna Delvey, who I'm not sure if you've watched Inventing Anna.
Inventing Anna, no, I haven't watched.
Great little series. Julie, is it Julie or Julia Garner?
I believe Julia.
Yeah. I think she's gonna be like
she's in the middle of it. She's in the middle.
But like she's just gonna keep rising because you forgot she was Ruth Langmore. You're like, yo, she is Anna Delvey. Like, it was a good show, but you know, her character, she'd call people stupid, idiots, incompetent, useless to their face all the time.
Where is she right now? And
they would still bend over backwards for her.
Yeah.
She is being I believe she's being extradited, but. You know, in the eyes of a person like that, who's like, yo, I just want to be the most famous talked about person whether it's at a point in time or just like, in general, I think
Yeah.
in her eyes, I feel like she accomplished her mission. She was like one of the most famous people, in the news storylines for a period of time, and still is being talked about. There's a Netflix show about her. I feel like in her eyes, she made it.
Yeah.
And then in 10 years, she'll probably get like a book deal, like a tell-all.
Yeah,
or
I
something
bet
like that.
I bet you she's not calling anybody in jail incompetent. I believe I believe she'll reserve that for her stretch of time while she's incarcerated.
True.
Yeah,
They won't stab you in a board meeting.
Look,
but they will on the block, on the cell block.
Here's the thing. I know that in the business world that it's a very commonplace thing to have very choice words for people. I do a bit of business with somebody right now who we kind of clash a little bit. And that person takes it as very sort of like normal and fine, and I take it as what the fuck is actually going on here. Like we're having very like contentious conversations when they don't really need to be this contentious, right? It seems like it's just that way because, but I personally don't care. Like if we can't talk to each other like civilly, if we can't be civil with one another, then why are we in business with one another? Because it doesn't, to me, like, and I'm not just saying civility for the sake of civility. I guess what I'm saying is I look at that as like respect for one another, right? Like if we're fucking yelling at each other and cursing at each other and doing all and calling each other incompetent and shit like that, it's like we don't really respect one another. It's just we're forced to be in a situation, so we're just like, all right, fuck it, like let's do it.
See, I don't know if I used to think that way. Now I don't care. It's like, is the work being done? Am I being paid? We don't have to respect each other. We don't have to like each other.
But there's the level of respect. Right?
Sure.
If somebody jumps on the morning call is like first names first, fuck a ring. Like, you're not gonna be like, oh, all right,
I'm gonna fly in. I'm gonna take a red eye. I'll be there in a couple hours. Let's have this Zoom call in person.
Yeah.
But no, I'm on calls often where there's like 2 or 3 of my current coworkers. They go at it all the time. One person will be talking, the other person will jump in like, listen, I don't care. Let's move on to this thing. And sometimes I'm like, damn, did they just jump?
The popcorn?
Like literally, they'll jump in and cut off like, hey, listen, I hear what you're saying. I don't care. Let's move on to this other thing. Yeah. And that's just how they work together and communicate. Jesus. And I'm like, damn, y'all some savages. But
I can't do it, dude.
But I respect it because no one takes it personally. And they're like,
I think that's the key thing is that nobody takes it personally. But I think that I view that as a sign that it's as a sign that you're not respecting the space enough to come to it with and I understand that sometimes people are assholes and people just say things, right? But when you can't filter yourself enough to know, like if you can't read the room enough to know, hey, nah, that shit's not gonna fly here.
Yeah.
Then that means that our future together, like that's not a working relationship, right? If it's different if we go back and forth. If we just have that type of relationship, like if you date somebody for long enough, you're gonna have that rapport with them where you're just like, man, shut up, and then like they're gonna tell you shut up, it's going to be like a back and forth thing. But if off rip you're just like, you're incompetent, I hate you, I don't want to work with you, but I'm forced to work with you. So and it's like, why am I? What the fuck are we doing here?
I think for me, it's like I have to know that either you care about like the quality of the work, like hey, listen, like I am the way I am because I care about the quality of the work. I want everybody to be at their best and to deliver the best quality of work. So I may be a little bit harsh, I may be a little bit brash, but like at the end of the day, we're gonna do great work together, and that's really all that matters. Like that, I can respect if you're a little bit like,
look. If
you just think you're better than me or smarter than me, and it's arrogance, then it's like, okay, now fuck you. But if it's just like, yo, you're like, we've got to, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it the absolute best, and I'm not gonna tolerate any incompetence. I can respect that.
Yeah, there's people who are blunt. And I understand that, right?
Yeah.
People who are just like to the point, who just don't really like look, whether I don't know, maybe it's just how they're made up mentally of just like, look, I don't like dilly-dallying around bullshit. I just like getting straight to the point. Yeah. Those people I can respect and I can work with, right? But when when you're just spewing shit just for the sake of spewing shit, and you think you can get away with it because maybe you have some sort of maybe you have leverage, and that's I can't work with you because that means you're not humble enough to be like. To come to the table and to work with things honestly.
Yeah.
You know?
So when I resigned from this position, we gonna have to.
Yeah.
You gonna have to see me.
Yeah, well, you better hope we're not near an Oscar stage.
There you go.
But next up, Jim Carrey, man, talking about retirement from acting. So I don't think he's actually officially. And how does I don't even know how to. I guess maybe an actor resigns from their union.
Yeah,
the Actors Guild, maybe.
I guess so. I guess you send an email.
Yeah,
and they're like,
say, hey,
okay.
I guess I'm not a part of it.
Like they can't have a rebuttal.
Yeah, what do you like? Or would they stop you if you tried to like just?
Oh no, Jim, do one more movie. You
Doritos commercial,
yeah.
like if they just be like,
sit on the board of the Actors Guild or something like that.
Yeah, but he's talked as of recent about hanging it up. But I guess he's kind of stopped. He's getting into his weird age where he just is saying like, and I feel like we don't look at him as old because he's
like in his like late 50s or 60s.
Nah, I think he's in his 60s, dude.
Really?
Yeah, Jim Carrey's a little bit old.
Good for him. He's managed to age well. Like if you look at Jim Carrey, let's say Jim Carrey's 65. You look at him, you wouldn't be like, that's a 65-year-old man. Now, granted, he's been rich for a very long time. Yeah, so it's easier to stay young when you're rich.
He literally just turned 60 in January.
Really? Okay. So it's easy to look and stay young when you're rich. Eat great food. You have great doctors. Doctors come to your house.
Yeah.
When you're rich, doctors come see you.
They make house calls. Yeah,
that is like the first few things I would do with my money. Let's say I get $100 million, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna hire a personal chef, and I want a doctor who like comes to me like weekly, monthly basis. Like, yo, make sure I'm good. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah.
Let's extend this thing out as far as we can. I don't want to die young because I missed something because fucking pancreatic cancer because I didn't come to the doctor. You come to me once a week.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, Jim Carrey, he looks young enough, but he is 60 years old. Watching a couple of interviews with him, dude, he's weird, dude. Like he's getting weird. He just says a whole bunch of things that are like loosely connected, but they're not really connected. And you're just looking, and the person interviewing him is just like, I don't know what to do here.
Yeah, I think I watched the episode of Jerry Seinfeld's Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee.
I know of it.
Really good show. I love that show.
Yeah.
I think I watched the episode of him and Jim Carrey, and it was just like a really weird episode. He's like, again, to your point, he'll say a bunch of things. Like
I don't know what to do with any of this.
Just always bouncing around. Like,
yeah.
I'm thinking this. I'm thinking that. I feel this. Here's a joke. Here's remember the time of this, and then we're gonna completely change topics and go somewhere else. Now we're talking about something that's sad, and it's like now we're happy again. It's really weird.
Yeah, but anyways, he's done some interviews as of late and talked about sort of like kind of hanging it up a little bit. Even though I think just appeared in The Weeknd's video for some reason. I guess they're buddies, him and The Weeknd. Go figure. But this got me to thinking, man. This is like I kind of view all of this kind of like I view Jay-Z's faux retirement. It's like I don't think you really need to announce that you're retired. I think you just stop doing stuff. I don't think it needs to be like this thing. Like, you know what I mean? I think you just don't accept any more projects.
I don't know. It depends on who you are. Because some people don't give a fuck if you're retired. If you're like, what's some shitty actor? If you're fucking Lindsay Lohan doesn't need to announce her retirement.
How dare you?
No, if Lindsay Lohan announced her retirement, people would just be like, okay,
cool.
Yeah,
like what else is going on with you?
Like, okay, you should have did this 10 years ago. We don't care. But for someone like Jim Carrey, I feel like it is more of a story. It's like, okay, like that person.
No, because look, Daniel Day-Lewis, right? To my knowledge, I don't think he's announced his retirement, but
But everybody knows he does a movie like every 10 years.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. This is like at any point in that between 10 years, you just be like, I don't really feel like doing anything anymore.
But also, most people who don't know who Daniel Day-Lewis is, you've probably seen some of his films, right? And he's like, you may hear that.
This might be shocking. I don't know if I've ever seen a Daniel Day-Lewis movie.
I've seen.
I haven't.
There
seen
Will Be Blood.
I haven't seen it.
It's okay.
What a rousing endorsement for the movie.
It's okay.
It's okay.
But Daniel Day, because he's not like this world famous actor, is really well known, well liked person like Jim Carrey is. People may not care. But for Jim Carrey to say, "Hey, I'm like stepping away from acting and I'm done," like the body of work that you have now is all that you'll have, and this is Sonic 2 is going to be my last movie. I think that's something that people may be more
Sonic 2 is your
responsive to
entry. Yikes.
Sonic 1 was good. I think like
But as Jim Carrey, like that's how you're gonna leave it after
Yeah.
everything.
I mean, I think he's a comedic actor. He's a comedian, right? So it's like I'm going to leave doing the work that I set out to do, and that's like being a comedic actor. And I think he did really, really well in the first Sonic movie. Like, I'm excited to see Sonic 2. I can't wait to go see it this Friday with my daughter.
Yeah.
So if it's good and he performs well, which I think he will, I think he's leaving on a high note.
That's fair. I will like to say that I wished that he would have stayed along the lines of, going from doing like the slapstick comedy to doing just like way more serious stuff. I feel like, this other person hasn't really followed that trajectory to a T, but I think for the most part is Adam Sandler. All of Adam Sandler's early movies are just like him just doing like a lot of dumb shit, and it's kind of like the same plot with like every movie, and he has the same sort of comedy shtick. And then I think somewhere around Punch Drunk Love, somewhere around there was just like, yo, it's like a switch flipped, where it's just like, yo, I'm about to start doing this fire shit, where it's just. I think that sometimes some of these comedians who do this sort of like really sort of like physical comedy or even just like comedy's just always been their thing. I think some of them can be some of the best dramatic actors because they know how to. It's like they know the gas pedals. They know when to hit the gas and know when to hit the brakes. Like it feels like they just over time they just. I feel like I really respect that. Like watching Adam Sandler take on a more serious role is always great. Like watching him in Uncut Gems was fucking awesome.
That's true. Spanglish is one of my favorite Adam Sandler movies.
Great fucking movie. Jim Carrey, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I fucking adore that movie. 23. Weird movie, but he did great in it,
Yeah.
And so even Cable Guy to some degree. Now Cable Guy is a little bit of an exception that he was just. I feel like he was Truman Show. I still feel like he was still in the comedy mode, but I get where you're coming from. I still respect Truman Show as sort of like a more serious turn.
He was funny when he needed to be funny, but then also was like very
dramatic.
serious when he needed to be. Yeah,
for sure. And I feel like I loved it. And I feel like I wish Jim Carrey would have had like maybe the last half of his career be just dominated by that. But it felt like he kept sort of like hopscotching, between serious role, unserious role, which is kind of what Adam Sandler does as well. But I feel like in my memory, I feel like I just remember Adam Sandler in his later part in his career having, even though he's done like romantic comedies and shit like that, but I feel like those roles stick out a little bit more.
But I feel like that's what we're projecting onto him. Because I mean, let's be real. Jim Carrey at this point in his career, like I'm sure he can pick and choose what roles he wants, right?
For
like,
sure.
I'm gonna do that project. I'm not gonna do that project. Like he doesn't need the money. So everything that he's done over the past, I'd say like 10, maybe even like 15 years, he probably has been like, I'm gonna do that because I want to do it, not because I need to. So I have to appreciate the fact that like everything that he's done over the past decade has been by choice, and it's probably because he's being true to who he is and not necessarily chasing the money or just like chasing the fame. He's like, I'm going to do that because I want to, and I'm going to dictate when I'm stepping away from this thing. And again, I like Sonic. I have high hopes for Sonic 2, for Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and yep, we're fine.
We are not fine. This is a fucking disaster. What the fuck?
We'll be okay.
This is why you shouldn't drink and do a podcast.
We need a napkin or something like that.
I just need to hold it upside down for a second.
Yep. Damn, I wish you had one of those like little air blower things.
Yeah. Stall for me. I'll be back.
I got you. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like Sonic the Hedgehog 2. If that is as good as I think it is, I'm excited to see it. And if Jim Carrey leaves acting on this note, I'm fine with that. I think his exact comments were, I've done everything I needed to do. I've basically like, I've been there, I've done that. I'm happy, I'm content with my work. Or I'm, maybe even he looks back at his career and he's like, you know what? I did more shit than I ever even set out to do. So I'm happy, I'm content, and my accomplishments are my own, and I don't need to like please other people. I'm happy. That's all that matters. I can step away here.
Yeah. Either way, and sorry, folks. I just spilled a bunch of beer on my laptop. So
move it again.
And so
I knock it over again.
Well,
There we go.
And I'm poor, so this is a very traumatic situation. But yeah, anyways, Jim Carrey. If he does hang it up, I feel like what a fucking career he's had, man. Gave us so many fucking classics. Ace Ventura, The Mask. What a fucking. Where's the dude from In Living Color? Fire Marshal Bill.
Yeah. Damn. What is the Mask was one of my favorites. I know you mentioned that. Dumb and Dumber.
Dumb and Dumber. Yeah.
I mean, it's fucking classic.
Bangers, dude.
One of the greatest. I think it was his like Oscars speech.
Now, wasn't it like a speech of like when he like went to like Harvard or some shit like that, or he went to some sort of like Ivy League school? And
it was
gave
some
a speech
award
that was,
show
like,
speech
awesome?
he did, and it was like he was like, you know, hi, I'm Jim Carrey, you know, Oscar-winning actor, so on and so on, and he was like, you know, like. Two-time Oscar-winning actor Jim Carrey, and he's like, and you know, after tonight, I'm likely to be three-time winning Oscar-winning actor Jim Carrey, and maybe then I'll be enough. It was just like the funniest. I watched it all the time, and I think it's the funniest thing. It's like Jim Carrey is not. He hasn't been gold like in just his movies. Like some of his interviews are just like the funniest things you've ever seen, or just like
now they're just weird,
or just like sketch comedy things, like little things he does here and there are just so funny. You just realize that like, all right, this guy just has talent, whatever it is, and it doesn't have to be in a movie. It could be in an interview. It could be if he's presenting an award somewhere. He's just a funny guy, and he's done enough. Yeah,
and it's amazing, man. He got his start on In Living Color, which is so interesting to think about that.
Yeah.
It was with the Wayans that he essentially got the leg up in the industry, and to see what he's sort of done with it is amazing. But anyway, that's that. So and this is going to be super quick, but Star Trek Next Generation, the cast, basically all the main cast are going to be in the final season of Picard. Which I know you don't watch Star Trek.
Nope.
I am starting to delve into it. So I'm starting to see sort of what the big deal is with Star Trek. Which actually, I'm not going to lie. Star Trek kind of fire. I'm not going to lie. Like, I feel like they have so much social commentary that is so far ahead of its time. From even back in the original series to Next Generation, to Voyager, to Deep Space Nine. What I love about Star Trek over, like, say I wouldn't even say over Star Wars. I think they're two very different things. But I would say what I like about Star Trek is that they don't shy away from social commentary. Mm-hmm. And so I always find it weird whenever people are like, oh my God, I can't believe they do this type of casting. You know, they're Star Trek is trying to go woke and all this other stuff. It's like, bruh, I feel like they've been like that the entire time. and if you don't think that they've been like that the entire time, then I feel like you were not paying attention to what the fuck they were doing, you know? But anyways, we get news that the Next Generation cast, which essentially is so on Picard, who's and I guess it's pronounced Picard. I haven't gotten to the Next Generation yet, I will admit. But he was, I guess, the captain for this particular on this particular show. So basically, all the main cast from that show are now going to come on the final season of the new Picard series, which is the third season. So that should be dope. And I'm glad. And Star Trek checks those boxes of having such vast amount of prior material, but they're still coming out with new shit. That I'm like, okay, so I can jump in, look at all the old shit, but there's still new shit that's still coming out that I can still.
You still have something to look forward to.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a Star Trek fan. I don't hate Star Trek. I'm not like against it. I'm just not willing to go back and like rewatch all the old shit. And I have no interest in the current shit or the shit that's coming. I know we're gonna review a Star Trek trailer in just a minute, and I'm sure it'll be great. I just have no interest in it.
I would highly recommend Star Trek, the original series, simply for just the funny shit that they do on there that you just look at now like, yeah, this is fucking hilarious. Like William Shatner just like rolling around on the ground, doing his little tumbles and shit like that. Like the action on it is hilarious to watch now. But also like some of the shit that they said back then was
like wouldn't fly today.
Wild, dude. dude. Like,
Yeah.
if you look at it through today's lens, you're like, whoa.
I mean, I hear it's a great show. I know millions and millions of people love it. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
Likely, it's not likely.
What old shit would you be into, dude? Because you can't just like, that can't be just, you go back and you watch old shit now. Like, you talk about watching.
You mean like as far as TV shows and movies, right?
TV, yeah, anything. You go back and watch tons of old shit. It's just, I mean, very select stuff.
I went back, Sopranos. I do want to watch like Grey's Anatomy. I think that'd be interesting.
Is it? You can't go back and watch old new shit, meaning that it's not stuff that you watched originally, but is old. So like that's what you're against.
No. The timing of it, right? Like when it was made has nothing to do with it. I'm just not interested in Star Trek.
No. Forget Star Trek for a second. I'm just talking about watching, because you've said this a few different times with a number of things.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is you don't like to go back and watch old shit that you're not familiar with.
I don't like to go back and watch old shit just for like, and again, old shit is not the issue. I have no interest in going back and watching maybe like, let's say a show or a series or a film that is like highly regarded, just because it's highly regarded, and like, you know, people say like, oh, it's one of those like things you have to watch, you have to see, you have to watch Gone with the Wind, you have to watch, you know, From Dusk Till Dawn, or you have to watch The Godfather. And it's like, if I don't personally find interest in that thing, I'm not going to go back and watch it, because like, you know, over time it's, you know, again, I think Godfather is a perfect example. Oh, it's the greatest movie of all time. You got to see The Godfather. Yeah. If I don't want to, if I don't want to watch it, I'm like, I'm not watching that fucking movie. I don't care how highly regarded it is.
It's just based on people's reactions to it.
It's based off of like, again, there are like these like classes of like, oh, here are the films which are regarded as like some of the greatest films of all time, right? And people think that because they're regarded as the greatest films of all time, like you should watch them, because it's like, oh, well, you have to. And for me, it's like, no, I don't. If I'm not interested in doing it, I'm not going to do it. Like, sure, Star Trek may be one of the greatest like TV series of all time, and it's like people love Star Trek just as much as they love Star Wars. I don't care. If I don't have a personal interest in it, I'm not going to go back and watch it.
Did you ever try to watch it? No.
Yeah.
And you just didn't find it interesting.
Nope.
Now, but what's interesting is, I guess a good thought experiment is, the younger you might not have enjoyed it, but the older you might enjoy it.
Maybe.
But not enough to.
Guess we'll never know.
Wait, so what's some old shit that you definitely would get into?
How old are we going?
Anything. I don't care. Whatever.
Like, I mean, there's some like older TV series that have been on for like quite some time that I'm like, you know what? I might be interested in going back to watch that. Like Seinfeld. Down the road, I may go back and watch Seinfeld. Start from the beginning.
I just went through it.
Sex in the City.
But what makes that different than anything else?
Because I generally have an interest, and I like Jerry Seinfeld. I like the cast. I like, from what I've seen from it, I've liked it. So it's like, you know what?
It's like, and it's you like comedians.
I like comedians in cars getting coffee. Yeah. I've watched Jerry Seinfeld stand-up specials on Netflix. I like all the cast members of it, and I've seen enough of it to know that like I'm interested in it. But I've never
committed to
started from like episode 1 and say I'm going to watch it through and through.
Yeah.
Whereas with Star Trek, I've seen maybe like 10 episodes of Star Trek throughout my life, and then each one I see, I'm like, you know, it's good. I enjoyed it, but not enough to say, hey, I'm going to start from episode 1, season 1, and watch it all the way through.
Well, you know what you should do, go back and watch, is how to make chicken properly. I don't know if you know where I'm going with this. It doesn't seem like you do, which is hilarious. I wish I put
about Paula Patton's video.
Yeah, I'm talking about
maybe Robin Thicke is right. Maybe he knew something, because I've always thought, Robin Thicke fumbled the bag. Maybe he just avoided salmonella. Like maybe that's what really happened.
Yeah, maybe he was just like, look, man, I've been looking at the FDA guidelines, and this does not seem like this passes the test.
Oh my God. Black women everywhere were just offended.
Yo,
like how
okay.
Greta Thunberg, someone's, how dare you?
It's not even black. So watching the video, I will admit I didn't watch the video in full. What I did was I don't even think I watched it with volume. I just like saw like her cooking it.
Mm-hmm.
But even watching that, I was like, nah, has to be like a skit. There's no way you think that this is how you make chicken. Like, even if you just cook food, like, forget chicken. Cooking food, you have to realize that this is not the way you cook. Like, as you're frying
even if you're using
chicken,
an air fryer, like, you don't season it while it's in the air fryer. Yeah, like,
what sense would that even make? Like, what do you think is going to, like, seasoning something mean you're trying to coat it in that seasoning, right? You're trying to make sure that seasoning seeps into the thing that you're cooking.
That means she's never like marinated any type of meat ever.
I don't look, and I'm usually a person because this and like I saw an article from CNN that was like Paula Patton chicken controversy. I was like, what are we doing here, guys? What's happening?
Didn't you say it was her like grandmother, her mother's recipe?
Yo, fam.
Yo, if I'm her mother or her grandmother, I'm like, keep my fucking name out of your mouth. Will Smith is like, that's gonna be one of the greatest, like little like just like bits that you can. I'm sure that is gonna stand the test of time. That Will Smith.
Yeah, I want to see. I want to see what the historical legacy is going to be of that moment, because I feel like we're still in like the it just happened phase of it, but I want to see like what the historical legacy is going to be at that moment. Because look, outside, because I truly do feel bad for Chris. Like, he didn't deserve it.
No, not at all.
Yeah, we can talk about that 10 weeks from Sunday, but the historical legacy of that moment is epic.
It's like just it's gold. It's such rich content. I mean, it's gonna be hard to mess up a joke about that whole situation, especially that audio is so crisp too. Yeah, that's what's weird about it.
Well, unless I'm mistaken, like, and Will was like yelling, and I don't think that people are like, I'm sure they have mics and just the place in general.
I feel like he was mic'd.
Yeah, it felt like he was. Yeah,
because that audio was so crisp.
Well, it's because he was so loud, and I'm sure they're not prepared for that.
And he's like a loud guy. Like, his voice projects just him as a person.
Look, anyway, I want to talk about Will later, but Paula Patton and the chicken controversy, as they say, it's not a fucking controversy, right? It's just apparently she doesn't know how to make chicken, which is perfectly fine. But the fact that she was just so certain about it, I think, is the thing that sold it.
I want to hear her reaction now that it's hit the interwebs and people have reacted to it.
I think she's already reacted, unless I'm mistaken.
Okay, I want to either read that, I want to hear it, but that was a bullshit recipe. I mean, how you want to season a chicken as it's frying? What the fuck is wrong with you?
Well, I don't. There's still a part of me that thinks it's bullshit. Like, I think it's like. I think it's like a joke. Like, there's no way.
There's certain jokes I'll make, but like when it comes to like my credibility, I'm not gonna play with that, because like I'm sure as a woman, she wants to be known as like as a woman who can cook, right? She's doing a cooking video to show she can cook. I don't think she'd want to.
But dude, it's impossible for anybody who's cooked like anything to cook it that way. You have to know that no, there's no part of it that makes any fucking sense. Like there's no part of that makes any fucking sense.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of reminds me of this dude who like so there's I watch tons of videos about like cooking steaks and stuff, and there's this dude who's like, I don't season the steak, I season the cutting board, and it's just like, shut up, nigga. Like, all right, there's a method to the madness, but it's bullshit, right? Yeah. But it sort of reminded me of that. You just want to be different. Exactly. Like, and so watching this, it was both the combination of clearly what she's doing is wrong, but then also she was so certain about it that I'm just like, nah, I don't know, fam. Like, you're leaning into this, and for somebody who like, you're making a cooking video, which means that I'm sure you know how to. One might presume that you know how to cook other things. There is just no godly fucking way that you think this is the proper way.
Yeah, it's like trying to tell me like, oh, like you should wipe your ass with your hand, and not toilet paper. It's like,
no, I don't think that sounds right.
Yeah, like, that's not the way you do it.
And like, I understand that she got the recipe from her grandmother or whoever, right, in her family. But at a certain point, you just got to be like, nah, grandma, I don't think you got that right. Like,
I don't know. Listen, I'm sure there's got to be like a conversation in the family here. Like, was grandma sick? Yeah, like, because there's no way that like her grandmother taught her this in good conscience. It's like, yo, I want you to eventually one day lose your husband, and then the whole Robin Thicke thing happened. I used to blame him. I used to be like, yo, you're an idiot. How do you, it's Paula Patton? How you fumble that bag? She's tier 1. Now he was probably just hungry. Like hunger can make you do some stupid things.
Yeah, I suppose. But anyways, so I thought we'd talk about that. But she did have a response. She said, "I just wanted to respond and say, listen, I get it. Peace, love, and fried chicken. It might look crazy. It is this. It is the way we do it. My mom taught me."
I'm not that. I'm gonna file a class action lawsuit.
Fam,
I need a better response than that.
I mean, look, I guess the charitable version of it is, if it's what your parents taught you, if and especially like there's something that's a connectiveness there, right? Or connectedness there, right? Of like, if you learn something from either parent, and this is just the way, right or wrong, this is just how you learn. I guess it is what it is, but it's just like, yo, fam, I don't know about this, man. I don't know, fam. Yo.
There's no way that chicken tastes as good as like other chicken she's tasted. And even if I've been taught to cook something one way, right? Yeah. And over time I experience a better version of that thing, I'm gonna be like, you know what? I've been taught this way, but here's a better way to do it. So I'm gonna learn this better way. And has she just resisted that her entire life? Because she's like got to be in her 40s. So it's like, you mean to tell me all this time I'm sure she's had other people's fried chicken before. Yeah. And she's like, yo, this shit tastes way better than mine's. What are you doing? The person's like, oh, well, I season it this way and I let it marinate overnight. And then she's like, damn, I know that tastes way better, but I'm still going to season mine in a pot.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It just, when I was looking at it, my soul was just like hurt. Yeah. Like, why? No, stop. I literally was yelling I was like, no, stop. What are you doing?
Yeah, I watched one of those reaction videos too, and the person like was watching Paula Patton cook. They're like, wait, would you?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
No,
bro. On the low, yo, I intensely hate those videos because it's a person reacting, and then like what I've seen lately is a person reacting to somebody else reacting for something. And I don't know if you've seen.
You can't react to the reaction.
Yo, it's wild. I don't know if you've seen Bo Burnham. Did you see his latest?
Who's that?
Special? You don't know who Bo Burnham is? No. Okay, fair enough. But he's just this white dude who's a comedian. He has stand-up specials. Little off kilter. He's a little different than I guess what your standard fare comedian would be. But his last special was I thought it was great, weird but great. But one of the things that he had was like this like Inception style like he does this like almost like skits where like in this particular skit that I'm thinking of, he had like he was reacting to his reaction and it just kept going and it just never ended of just like he was just reacting. And I feel like that's where I've seen it on various social media platforms. People will be like watching a video, right? And then that video will go away and then it'll be another person reacting to that video and then they react to that person watching.
If those things exist, I will never watch. I'll never find it because I will not. It's
just on my feed. Like it's not like I'm like looking for it. It's just there, you know.
Yeah. I'm gonna block that content. I've been blocking a lot of shit on IG. Like whenever I'm scrolling, whenever I see an ad, just block,
that you're just not
relevant.
Into.
I've been unfollowing a lot of people lately. Like if you're not funny, I'm not following you. It's either my Instagram is shifting. The whole algorithm is shifting. Okay. I either want like fitness shit, like teach me how to cook healthier, eat healthier, work out better.
The cooking shit is that's a necessary.
Yeah, definitely. Like you learn so many tips and tricks of like how to.
No.
I'm gonna block her tonight. Actually, I'm gonna
just to make sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna follow her just to report her content as inappropriate and then block her.
Oh my god.
Oh, right, let's listen to that. I got another hour in this motherfucker.
I got you. Dude, yeah, like I said, I watched the West Side Story this past week. I didn't really think, this can be short too. I didn't really think it deterred too much from the original. And also too, like we were looking up like the people who actually like made it, and it's just like Steven Spielberg and a bunch of other like white dudes. It would appear that made the movie, and it's like, I don't know. Can we get a West Side Story that is made from somebody else's perspective other than like a white dude? Because I'm pretty sure I think the book was written by a white dude, which is cool, and I understand like that's the original content where it comes from, and I might be getting all this wrong right now. I have not verified any of this, but from my very rudimentary research, I don't know. It feels like the story of the West Side. It's the Jets, and I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Sharks.
Jets, Sharks. One side is from. They all sort of hail from Puerto Rico. The other side are just a bunch of white dudes who were, I guess, either born in and around New York, and it's very much sort of like a seesaw battle of like, hey, this is our territory. Hey, this is our territory. Both sides are basically, the white dudes are mad that everybody's sort of moving in. The other side's just like, I'm just trying to fucking exist. My apologies, I guess. And so, but it'd be great to see that story from not made from like white dudes.
Yeah.
Which I know Spielberg, he made The Color Purple.
How much of the other perspective was like really told. And I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, from like a genuine, like nuanced point of view, not this like sort of surface level.
Yeah.
This is
like,
what I think.
If I tell a story about, 3 women, right? And I may be able to do my due diligence and like really do my research and really try and.
But you're never going to be able to tell that story.
I can never do
a
it
woman would
unless
be able to.
I have either like a woman who's like writing it with me, who's like, hey, like this is how this thing would really go. This is how this responds to this reaction. Or this
and I don't know if that is how this sort of went down with West Side Story at any level, whether it's at with Spielberg making the movie or when it was originally written. I don't know. Maybe that was a part of the process, but I don't know. As I was watching it, I was like, I don't know, man. Like it'd be cool to see this from with a different slant on it.
Yeah.
Then anyways, but yeah. Anyways, I watched it. Yeah, it was okay. They didn't really do anything different than, at least that I remember the original with. So I'm gonna go back and watch the original and see if it basically is the same movie. But yeah. It really wasn't anything to scream home about.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, fair enough. Have you watched the new Halo series?
I've not. This is on it's on Paramount Plus, right? I just realized that I had we talked about this the other day. I realized I had Peacock because I had forgot. I'd signed up for like the free trial or something like that. I forgot to cancel it, so they've been billing me.
You don't have cable, right?
No.
Okay, because I was going to say if you did have like Xfinity or something, you'd be able to get Peacock for free. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just canceled my membership. Well, I didn't cancel because Peacock offers you like the Peacock free version.
Yeah.
Where they just do like, this is all the other shit we have.
Lame.
Really? Yeah. I'm not gonna watch it anyway. But I was like, I was canceling it. They were like, yo, do you want the free version? I'm like, I'll take it if it's free. I mean, there might be something on there I want to watch one day. But no, Halo on Paramount Plus. Like, I do want to watch that show. So,
how and you got down with us back in the day with
fuck
the
you
Halo
mean? Yeah, I was there.
The headshots.
Yeah, that was my whole childhood.
Shit talking.
Shout out to Jack. Jack nicest with the headshots.
Jack, well, Jack. Shout out to Jack. But also shout out to one of the most hilarious events that happened, I guess, in our upbringing.
I'm a fucking Marine.
Shout out to Bird.
I hope I never forget that.
You will never forget that. You still remember it now.
Yeah, even if I get Alzheimer's one day, I hope that's the one thing I still remember.
Maybe
not
one day,
my children.
Maybe one day we'll tell this story on the podcast. Although I guess outside of talking about Halo, I'm not sure whenever it would actually come up. But we don't have enough time to talk about it today. But it was just one of the most hilarious events. Maybe at the time it was a little bit in the exact moment it was kind of serious, but literally the moment after it was hilarious.
Yeah, I remember like being in that moment, and I'm like, yo, this is gonna live on. Like, let's not everybody calm down. Let's not fight. Let's not ruin the night. But like, this is gonna be a forever.
Oh shit. But anyways, Halo the series. It looks. Look, people are picking at it online, like picking out different things. But dude, as far as like adaptions go from games, it's kind of fire, dude. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. We talked about Sonic a little earlier.
Yeah. How far in are you on Halo? Is
It's only
out?
No, only season 2 or season 2. Only 2 episodes are out.
In
the
season
third,
one?
yeah, in season 1. The third episode comes out. I think it comes out on Fridays or at some point during the weekend. I guess it comes out. So if you wanted to jump in, perfect time to.
I probably will.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like this is going to be one of those things where people are going to expect it to be like just like the video game. Where it's like, do you know how impossibly hard that is to do?
I've seen videos online of people like comparing the graphics in the game to like the graphics in the TV show. I'm like, dude, I really don't give a fuck. Like,
these
I
are
don't
real
care.
people
like,
doing this. They can't. Like, I can't really jump from one building to the other.
Well, they try to do dumb shit like Master Chief jumping is like way different than the live action. Like it's way more like, okay, he's like
the way
scaling a building
and
in the live action versus in the game you're only able to like hop. Like
you're an asshole if you pull up how the character moves in a video game.
What are we doing
versus
here?
the like, come on, you've got better things to do with your life.
Yeah, but in my humble opinion, I think it's fire, dude. Like, because I feel like there's an actual story there, which Halo is notorious for having for its story, right? Like the campaign mode, like usually in games, we've experienced this with Call of Duty, which I've never really gotten into, but nobody gives a fuck about the story mode in Call of Duty. It's all about the multiplayer, online, yada yada, right?
Yeah.
And with Halo, it kind of became that. But Halo's always been known for having a fire campaign mode where you're going through the story, and it's just always been a great story. So I feel like maybe that's why people feel a type of way about it. But I feel like this story, like it feels like they've created, not necessarily created because they clearly borrow heavily from the games, if not just airlifted from the games. But it feels like there's something to latch onto here versus the story's bullshit and all they're trying to do is just recreate.
They've made like the live action believable, right?
Yeah, because they made it its own thing.
Yeah, you can't give me exactly what's in the video game and then just take.
But you also can't differ from it completely.
Yeah.
You
it
have
can't
to
be
strike
too
some
far
sort
of a
between.
departure, but it
sure.
has to be when you do the live action adaptation, not adoption. We talked about this earlier. When you do the live action adaptation, which that sounds weird too. There has to be a sense of like realism here. Like these are real people doing real things, and like there are real consequences to their actions, and it's not a video game where you could respawn. Like these people are gonna die when they die. So like their purpose and their reason has to like make sense to me. From what I've seen in like what I've heard about the series and like what I've seen in the trailers, it looks like they accomplished that. But I'm definitely gonna check out Halo for sure. Yeah, for sure. I've been going to Dave & Buster's a lot lately because my daughter fucking loves this place. Yeah, and I love it too. Halo is like one of the games I always play.
I didn't even know they had that at Dave &
Got the Halo.
I've been thinking. I was a shout out to my man Andrew. I doubt if you'll be listening to this, but me and my girlfriend went to North Carolina in the last couple of weeks, and we actually stayed with another couple down there, and the husband, he had an old Xbox for some reason that he just got, and he had Halo. So he's like, yo, we're about to play Halo. And I was like, fire it up, champ. Like, and so we were fucking rocking out with Halo. And it was my first time playing Halo in like fucking like 10, 15 years, dude. Yeah. It was my first game.
The first Halo video game, like it's still Halo.
Combat Evolved.
Siphon filter.
Fire, my guy. Fire. Yo, there was one year where I just played Halo and Madden, just that, like, because I remember it. It was like I remember it snowing, so I remember it all kind of started during like winter break, and then 50 Cent's "Get Rich or Die Trying" came out that same year. Yo, I was just rocking out the fucking Many Men, and then just playing Halo, playing Madden. Yo, life was good. Life was good.
When the Halo video game first came out, you had your Xbox, you had your boys, and you weren't paying taxes yet. Like, a great time.
It was good.
In my life,
you were, I guess you were still being claimed on other people's taxes, so you didn't have to pay taxes yourself.
I mean, I don't even remember if I was working or not, but if I was making enough money to float, in high school, just have a little bit of change, go see a movie, go to the mall, the dollar menu.
Yeah, lifesaver.
What a
lifesaver.
time.
Yeah. And that was when the dollar menu first came out. So it was just like,
that shit was busting when it first came out. Like, you mean I could get 3 burgers for
double
$3
cheeseburger
plus tax?
Double cheeseburger and a
And I remember when
sandwich?
they put the 10-piece nuggets on the dollar.
It was a wrap. It was a wrap.
Game over.
Yeah. Let's move on here. Let's check out our first trailer here, man. So we've got our first trailer for Outer Range, which is about a rancher fighting for his land and his family, who discovers an unfathomable mystery at the edge of Wyoming's wilderness. This is directed by Brian Watkins, and it's a series, if I'm not mistaken, and stars Josh Brolin, Imogen Potts, who I just watched her. I just rewatched the movie. I don't know if you watched it. That Awkward Moment with Zac Efron, Michael B, and Miles Teller.
No,
I don't remember. You don't remember that? Okay, fair enough. Not that great. I'm not gonna lie to you. In hindsight, and they took like mad digs at Morris Chestnut of all people for some reason. And it was just like a bunch of white people. Like, so Michael B. Like the running joke was Michael B. was like his girl was cheating on him, and it was like he was like, oh, and the dude looked like Morris Chestnut, and they're all like, oh, cool, who's Morris Chestnut? And it was just like, how the fuck do you guys not know who the fuck Morris Chestnut is?
Yeah.
Like, how white can you be that you don't know who the fuck Morris Chestnut is? Even though I'm saying that right now, I'm pretty sure my girlfriend does not know who Morris Chestnut is.
Yeah.
Positive she does not know who that is. But anyways, also starring Lily Taylor, Tom Pelphrey, and is due out April 15th of this year. Let's check out the trailer for Outer Range. Nope.
This land, this family, it's always been kind of like a dream to me. I don't know, part of me, I guess. Figured one day I'd wake up.
I'm looking for the Abbott Ranch.
Yeah, we're not a tourist ranch.
Come on, I was looking at camp. Only be a few days. Autumn.
Well,
Glad to finally meet you.
Why are you here?
You see that? I've been drawing it for years, and now I see it all over the place here.
you stay away from her, you understand? And that goes for everyone.
I want that land.
Why?
There's something out there.
What is this, Royal?
I don't know what it is.
This will just be our little secret.
I want you west pasture because I want you west pasture.
My west.
You tell me.
Something's happening here. Something bigger than you and me. And the world's been waiting for something like this.
There'll be no strings to bind your hand.
You ever wonder if the world's not what you think it is? No law, no order, just chaos all the way down.
There'll be no strings.
Hello.
Something is coming. Something is happening.
Just call me angel of the morning, angel.
Please, can you quit it?
Just call me angel of the morning, angel. Just touch my cheek before you leave me.
Love Josh Brolin. Fucking Thanos finally got his ranch.
Where he can just look over a grateful universe.
Exactly. Well, apparently not. I guess no matter where you are in the universe, people are still going to be fighting over land and who owns it, even though it's not even theirs to begin
Seems
with.
like we're doomed for
Yeah.
it till the end of time.
Also, Will Patton. I've always liked him as an actor. Lily Taylor. She's in this. This looks good. A lot of white people in here. Like, granted, they're out on a ranch.
Yeah, they're in
somewhere
Wyoming. So,
in Wyoming. So
yeah,
it's like
I think we
it's
can-
them and Kanye, right? So like, it looks good. I'm not gonna lie. The story looks really, really interesting. It's on Amazon, so I have that. I'll give this a try.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not waiting for it. I mean,
It looks
I don't got the
weird.
T-shirt, but
It looks weird in the sense of I think there's might be some aliens involved here. There might be some supernatural shit maybe involved here. And Josh Brolin seems like he thrives when shit is just a little askew, right? I remember watching, I don't know if you remember the movie Inherent Vice. Probably don't. It's fine. But it was with Josh Brolin was in it along with who's the last dude to play Joker? The standalone Joker movie.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix was in a weird fucking movie from Paul Thomas Anderson, right? But one of the things I could say for sure is that Josh Brolin knocked it out of the fucking park. Even though the movie is weird and I still don't get it to this very day, right? But I feel like he's able to thrive in weird circumstances because he seems like such a straight-laced dude that he seems like he thrives in like odd scenarios where he should be straight-laced or the circumstances around him should be straight-laced because that's how he plays it.
Yeah.
But it's not, and I feel like he thrives in those scenarios. So I think I'm always here for that. In this particular series, it just looks like a strange little concoction of just a lot of weird shit. So I'm here for it. And yeah, we'll
when is
see
this
what
premiering?
becomes.
So this is on Amazon Prime.
It's Amazon Prime. Oddly enough, it comes out next week.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Listen, if I'm looking for something to watch late at night, I'll give this a try. It looked pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. Let's move on here to our next trailer. So we get a trailer from something that Arain, he hates. He spit on the series. He's, constantly trying to look for ways to disrespect the series.
I heard Paula Patton was cooking on the set.
She was doing the catering.
Yeah.
The crew's like,
everyone's gonna be sick.
The crew's just looking at it like, whoa. All right. Oh, so you're gonna do it afterwards, right? You're gonna put the season. Okay.
Let's travel into outer space. Let's see what's out there. Let's go. Let's check out some strange new worlds.
It's like, guys,
food's got to be better.
Guys, the spaceships don't actually work. What?
Yeah.
Don't they though? Still trying to hop on. So we get a trailer here for Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. So this is a prequel to the Star Trek, the original series. The show will follow the crew of the USS Enterprise under Captain Christopher Pike. So for those who aren't familiar, so Christopher Pike was the captain of the Enterprise before Captain Kirk took over. So this is what the series is going to follow: is the adventures before Captain Kirk actually took over for it, aka William Shatner. And this is directed by a number of people, or I guess the show's created by a number of people. But stars Anson Mount, Rebecca Romaine, Christian Chung, Ethan Peck, and is due out May 5th of this here year. Without further ado, let's check out the trailer, the first trailer for Star Trek: Strange New Worlds.
Hi. Sorry to interrupt. This is your captain? Our mission. To chart the stars. Push the boundaries of what is known. And what is possible.
I'm standing on the surface of a comet.
I love this job.
These people, this crew, I believe we can do anything.
You wanted to seek out new life. Go where the aliens are.
Your presence is blasphemy.
Let's talk about this. Find some
I think that went well. Perhaps we should kiss.
That seems logical.
Spot.
Maybe we don't touch anything else. Just a suggestion.
The whole future hangs in the balance.
No one can know the future. One can only follow one's instincts.
You're the best of Starfleet. Our ability to work together, that's our greatest strength. Let's show them what you got.
Yeah, that should look fire, dude. I like it.
I'm not interested.
Yo, it's only because if that was like something else that was not named Star Trek, I feel like you'd be interested.
I still wouldn't be interested.
That's a lie.
I mean, it look cool, but not interested.
Yo, you probably like that chicken Paula Patton made, didn't you? That's the comments of somebody who liked that chicken. That's the comments of somebody who.
If you were at Paula Patton's house and she made you that chicken,
yeah,
and she was like,
well, okay, so
you have dinner and maybe we have a good time after. We have a glass of wine.
Yeah,
like, you're interested in her. You guys are on a date. She invites you to her house. She cooks for you. She makes that chicken.
It would be bland, but at least I know it would be actually like, or in theory, it would.
Did it cook all the way through?
Like she's frying it, so that's not the problem here. The problem is the seasoning, right? Like we're applying the seasoning at a terrible point in time, right? And so I wouldn't be like scared to try it. I'd just be like, I know what I'm going to get. I need to drink a lot of wine. I just wash it down with a lot of wine. This is all you probably need to do.
You got to chase the chicken with the wine.
But anyways, Star Trek, Strange New Worlds. Look, I thought that looked fire, man. They have little young Spock in there as well. My dog came in and wants to play around. Hey, come here, bud. Come on, get out. Out.
Yeah, I mean, again, I could see how for Star Trek fans this looks great. I mean, I think the everything's happening over here. I think like cinematography looked great. The cast looked really good. The artwork, the digital effects, it all looked good. I just have no interest in it. That's all it is. And why exactly? I'm not sure, but it's like when you know. Hey, I'm willing to dedicate time to this thing. I'm willing to read that book or watch that movie or watch this show. And when you're not, and I'm very honest with myself about it, I am not willing to do it. There are probably other things I'd rather spend my time on.
So, but you'd watch Star Wars stuff, right?
I've seen them all. Yeah, I guess it's like, when you're young, at a certain point, you make a decision. It's like, all right, do I want to go the Star Trek route? Do I want to go the Star Wars route?
No. Why do you have to choose?
Because we didn't have cable. So I was like, I'm going to watch Star Wars shit, right? And then...
But Star Trek was always more accessible than Star Wars.
Maybe. I don't know, but I chose sides. I chose. That's it. I chose Star Wars, and then I followed suit. And I'm not saying Star Trek is bad. I just have no interest in it.
That's fair. Look, this looks cool. I started with watching the Star Trek the original series, which apparently isn't exactly where chronologically things start with. I believe Star Trek Enterprise. I guess before we just got the Star Trek Strange New Worlds, because Star Trek Enterprise deals with like when they're first getting like the spaceship that they're in, like when they start first launching them. That's when Star Trek Enterprise. I could not suffer through because it's like that early 2000s. Really, like I don't know if do you remember the station? It was it wasn't UPN. It was like, was it UP? It might have been UPN. It might have been UPN. But it was just like, where they just it was like station. It was like the trash can for all like the unwanted like, series. The series that got like a budget of like, we're only gonna give you $10,000 a season to do this show. That's what they sent to UPN, and I believe that Star Trek Enterprise was on UPN. And
it was like
it looks every bit.
When Hercules wasn't on there, it was like the Hercules.
No, I think they
spinoff.
Yeah.
Of like Aeolus's show. Remember Hercules is like sidekick Aeolus?
Yeah.
It was like his show.
I've been seeing a lot of Xena shit. A lot of Xena shit on
Lisa Leslie was not Lisa Leslie. What was her name?
Lisa
it was Lisa something. Lisa
Fuck, what was her name? Because she's on Parks and Rec too. So that's
Lucy
why I like
Lawless.
Lucy Lawless. There you go. Yeah. With
a lot of alliteration there. We were close.
We were figuring it out. Yeah.
Lisa Leslie, Lucy Lawless. We were close.
We got there eventually. But
both great women.
Both great. So that's where they sent a lot of their shows. And so this Star Trek Enterprise is like, it's heavy UPN like production where it's just like, nothing about this makes me want it from the music to like the visual effects. Everything about this is just terrible.
Yeah.
And so I just couldn't do it. I was just like, I'll skip it. I'll skip this one.
Yeah.
I'll skip this one. Luckily there's other ones that are way better. So Star Trek, Next Generation, Voyager, Deep Space Nine. Apparently, those are a lot better than Enterprise. So I feel like I'm still going to go back and watch those. So I actually do fuck with it. I thought I wouldn't like it. I thought it'd be a failed experiment, but I'm not gonna lie, I fuck with it.
Listen, I'm happy you're
fuck
happy.
with it. Yeah, fair enough. Let's jump into our last few stories here, and then we'll call it a night.
Yeah, this next story right here, this one's really, it's either really interesting and cool or it's stupid.
I'll give my opinions after we're done. But,
so here's a little interesting article. This is from IndieWire. So John Malkovich and Robert Rodriguez, they created a film called 100 Years. And interestingly enough, this film will be displayed at the Cannes Film Festival 100 years from now, which, it says Cannes before 21. How do you say this year? 2115? So long.
2115.
2115?
Yeah. I feel like it's pretty simple.
I don't know. Because it's like
2022.
You know what I mean? Do you just say 2115?
Yeah.
That's it?
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Or do you say year 2115?
Or do you say 2115? Just to
I don't know. It feels weird. So anyway, just to give you a little bit of context. So again, this film will be featured essentially, quote unquote, 100 years from now. To read a little excerpt here. So the film will be displayed but not shown at this year's Cannes Film Festival, where it will be showcased in a special safe in the Louis what the fuck is this?
13.
Is that 13?
Yeah.
You sure?
X
looks
with
like a big
three
number.
marks.
You're right. So in the Louis XIII Suite Members Club by invitation only at Hotel La Magique Barrère, Cannes. I didn't know if I said that right, but you got to say it with confidence.
That's fair.
So the last little bit here, the safe was designed to automatically open in 100 years to ensure that it remains secure until the official premiere on November 8th, 2115.
2115.
No, Rose. It's year 2115.
And it also goes on to say 100 years is an intriguing project that envisions Earth 100 years from now and has inspired and was inspired by the century of careful craftsmanship it takes to create each decanter of Louis XIII cognac. I don't know what the fuck that means, but okay. So interesting project. Look, my only gripe with it is that we might not be here in 100 years, right? Like, so interesting scenario there because
they may not give a fuck. Like this is going to be a movie, right? So that means in 100 years,
there's nothing different from this than like fucking, what do they call those things that you put in the ground? You know what I'm talking about, where they dig the big hole and then they time capsule.
Yeah,
this is a fucking.
Like I just know you're talking about a time capsule. Like those things are real.
Yeah, it's essentially just a fucking time capsule.
Sure, but like in 100 years, like are movies as we consume them today gonna be the same? Like in 100 years, this shit may not even be fucking relevant. They're gonna be like, yo, why the fuck would I want to watch a movie from 100 years ago just because it's been in a safe? I don't care. Listen, I put on these goggles and I could be in a movie or a TV show. What are you
talking about? Of course, people will be into it. What the fuck are you saying? Like, of course.
Yo,
especially with that nobody's seen it yet. Of course,
will I watch a movie from 100 years ago?
Yeah.
Fuck no. Fuck that movie. I don't give a shit. In 100 years, technology is going to have advanced so much that I guarantee this will not be relevant.
What does technology have to do? Technology doesn't have anything to do with it. All right. What it has to do with is that they're capturing a moment in time, right? It's basically what we think 100. And maybe I'm misunderstanding what they're saying here, and that could also be possible. But what they're essentially saying is, we're projecting out 100 years to see what like life is like. And so I'm sure people 100 years from now are going to be just for the shits and giggles of thinking of what those idiots back 100 years ago thought 100 years from then would look like. Well worth it, right? But then even further than that, again, we do this all the time. Like now with time capsules, right? Like some people back in like the 1950s, 60s, whatever the case is, put something in the ground. I was like, this shall not be open until another 50 years or whatever. We open it up, see what kind of dumb shit that they put in there.
And it's always dumb shit we don't care about.
But they do it nonetheless, right? Like it's not as if they're just going to abandon the project.
When was the last time you heard somebody open up a time capsule and you're like, yo, that shit was like, this is like
I'm not the demographic that would be important for. Like I would like it would be important for the people who theoretically would have been around at that time.
Well, like, I mean, but the goal is to have it be opened at some point in the future, and then for it to be meaningful then, right? I don't think this John Malkovich movie is going to be meaningful 100 years from now, because I feel I don't, but I feel like the way that we will consume like media, right? Yeah. TV, film, whatever. It's already changed so rapidly in the past decade.
How so?
I mean, you got social media, you've got fucking Quibi happened, right? Like, I'm sure they're gonna redo that.
How is that tremendously different from how we watch movies? Even probably. Well, I guess like maybe a little less than 100 years ago.
So even 10 years ago, we weren't able to just stream shit on our home.
Yeah, but like, the fundamental act of watching a movie hasn't changed, though, right? Like,
but I feel like that is the next innovation, right? It's like, all right, you went from being able to, you have to go to a movie theater.
Movies are a story. How is that? You're telling stories. That's never going to change.
Sure, but the way we consume it is, right? Like, I think
who cares? Then they'll adapt it to whatever the fucking thing is at that time.
But you can't open it. Like, the thing is going to remain as it is for 100 years. Okay, so in 100 years,
right now we're able to convert fucking VHS tapes, fucking laser disc, whatever the fuck it is, right, to whatever medium we have now. How is this any different?
Dude, I'm just forecasting. 100 years from now, I do not think this is going to be relevant. It's either going to be very wrong, or it's going to be like, yo,
probably definitely wrong.
We've run out of food, and there's the Earth's water supply.
That's my worry.
So it's like, we don't have time to watch a movie from
climate change is probably going to get us before
there are no more fish in the sea.
Yeah. No, for sure. Like, I think life is just going to be so different that maybe like we're not going to be here, or, which is sad because I don't have any kids yet, but I definitely want to have kids.
I have a kid. Will she be alive in 100 years? I mean, like, maybe not. Her grandchildren, maybe, if she has grandchildren.
No,
I don't
know
them.
Life expectancy should go up with each generation, right? I don't know if it's
we're polluting the air and destroying the rainforest, so maybe
I think
not.
In general, okay, maybe climate change, to the side. I think as generations go on, the life expectancy should go up. Now, I don't know what it is right now, but I would have to imagine it was more than what it was 100 years ago, clearly, right?
Yeah, I would say
so. But then the other thing is, better not lock anybody in that fucking safe, because they said once it locks, it's not going to open for another 100 years. So unless it's this, and this is the exact plot of The Fifth Element, by the way.
That is true. That is true.
Is that Yo got locked up in the thing, in the, I guess, the vault where they had all the shit for The Fifth Element, and then it opened back up, and then Yo was still there, just dead. Which I never really understood. But did he decay? The person?
Yeah, because decay would be caused by it's oxygenated decay, right?
Oh, shut up! Don't try
vault,
to scientist. Like, what the fuck?
Very, very smart guy.
This guy. So, well, really,
if you're trapped in a vault, I don't think your body would decay. You would just die because you don't have any water or food or air. But I don't think your body would decay. I don't know. Anyway, I don't think this shit will be relevant 100 years from now. I think this is more just like a hey, we did a
yeah,
thing.
It's just a cool thing.
It's cool, kind of stupid, but cool, and it's done.
What's the worst that could fucking happen? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's the negative that's going to come out of this? Nothing.
So there's a future timeline happening right now, right? 100 years from now.
Sure.
And maybe 100 years from now, they're just now finding this movie, and they're about to watch it. They're gonna oh my god, this is like a huge historic moment. This movie was filmed 100 years ago. Let's watch
apparently
it
is relevant.
And then they're going to want to come back in time and kill us and stop us from ever making this movie.
My dude,
it's like Tenet.
So I was thinking about this before.
This is like Tenet, where the future is probably going to try and come back and kill us.
I'm sure. But Tenet wasn't technically about time travel per se, right? It was about what did they kept saying? It's about what did what was it? It was like immersion or some shit like that. What was it?
Yeah, fuck. I forget the actual thing, because there was a thing, then there was a gesture. Yeah. But in Tenet, the people in the future were trying to steal resources from the past because they needed it in the future.
Yeah.
This time they're just gonna come back and we need to stop that movie from being made, and we need to kill Paula Patton because she destroys the future.
It's all about Paula Patton.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Oh fuck. I feel so bad, man. I feel terrible. But anyways, let's move on to our fourth story. Look, this is one that I don't really particularly want to talk about, right? I don't want to talk about this for a number of reasons. Long story short, Louis C.K. got a Grammy. Now, the reason why that's pretty fucking significant is because, and I was trying to remember how long ago this was. I was like, oh man, it was just like 2-3 years ago. It was like 5 years ago. This was that he essentially had allegations against him that he essentially was, for lack of better terms, jerking off in front of women. Unprompted, unsolicited.
Yeah, you gotta pay to do that.
Jesus Christ. And so he basically was jettisoned from society at large, and you go from doing that to now winning a Grammy for something that he did back in 2020, which still kind of doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know how that works. Maybe it's because I don't know why the fuck that is. He made the album in 2020, and why are we now giving him an award in 2022?
Yeah. I don't know.
That's weird.
They had to fill space in the show.
I suppose maybe they didn't have enough comedy.
Some of these Grammy categories are
they don't make any sense.
Odd.
They're stupid.
That's silent album.
All right, cool. Just I guess the wind blowing. I don't know. Room noise. So I don't particularly want to talk about this because I don't have really any feelings about this. I'll let you go first before I interject with how I feel.
So I've seen a lot of talk about how if Will Smith were not Will Smith, right? Let's say he were white and he did this,
sure,
how it would have been how people would have responded to it. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people are saying like Will Smith has a certain privilege that he could do something so egregious and still be not escorted from the building, not canceled, not vilified, right? And this just talks about cancel culture, right? Like, well, they're not gonna cancel Will Smith. It's Will Smith. You can't cancel him, right? But like, you can cancel. And I think the question is like, what do you cancel people for? Slapping someone? Is it sexual assault? Is it racism? Is it xenophobia? Is it like, what do you cancel people for? And Louis C.K. obviously he got quote unquote canceled for a sexual assault, yet here he is a couple years later winning a Grammy, right? So I think the conversation that people are having here is like, I saw one quote, and there's an interesting quote here in this article that says, the Grammys are a great reminder that cancel culture does not exist, and no white dude has ever been successfully canceled for anything terrible that they do. Also, fuck Louis C.K. This is like something someone tweeted, right?
Yeah, I don't know about that, but all right.
Like, goddamn, like that's a lot of strong energy for like something. And maybe I'm gonna sound like a bad guy for this, but like, I don't look at Louis C.K. like fuck him. I think he did a really shitty thing. I think he acknowledged the fact that he did a shitty thing. I think he apologized to the people that he did the shitty thing for. And like the question I ask is like, why do we think we're so like arrogant that we could just cancel someone? And I feel like society is really interesting in how like we view punishment, right? Yeah. Like, hey, you did something wrong, you should be punished. You should serve your time in prison. You should have to, face court in the public domain, and you should apologize. You should right your wrongs. But even after you right your wrongs, people are always still going to want to attack you for the thing that you did. So it's like, what's the point of canceling someone?
To be fair, how did Louis C.K. right his wrong?
So he was one of the first people like in this whole like cancel culture, Me Too thing to come out and say, yes, I did that stuff. I know it was wrong. I'm sorry. It was inappropriate. Like
that's just an apology. That's not righting the wrong.
Well, I mean, I feel like acknowledgement is the first step, right? A lot of people try
it's his first step, but it's the first step in a number of steps.
In this situation, I don't know if there's any way you can write it. The only thing you could do is say, hey, listen.
Plenty of things you could do.
Like what?
I don't know. Like he could like donate his time or his money to causes that help, in terms of like maybe like women's with it, like mental health, because and the reason why I say this is because so what I actually did was I thought about this from like imagine if you were the person who like forget the name Louis C.K., right? You're into graphic design, right?
Yeah.
imagine if you befriended somehow a person who's like the most sort of epic graphic design person, right? Somehow you got in touch with them. Somehow they were like, "Hey, let me take you under my wing, right? Let me school you on this shit." They invite you up to their place. "Hey, I want you to come check out X, Y, or Z. I'm gonna help your career out, yada yada," right? And you walk through the door, and they're immediately jerking off. Like I try to view it through that lens because it's like that would be traumatizing to me. Like I understand personal responsibility and like, okay, I'm getting the fuck out of here, and that was weird, whatever. But also, it's just like, yo, I don't know if my psyche is going to be the same after that, knowing that this person who I fucking thought the world of suddenly is just jerking off in front of me and thought somehow that was cool. Because that's exactly what the fuck happened with the Louis C.K. situation, yeah?
Maybe I need to look at the world in like a more positive light, but I feel like we're so privileged to be able to view just these like shitty situations as traumatic, right? Like look at Amy Schumer. She's like, "Oh, I'm traumatized by having watched or seen Will Smith slap Chris
dude,
Rock."
How
the fuck are you traumatized?
Like I get that. I get the word traumatized is maybe a little triggering in terms of just how people use it, but I really do think that is a bit traumatizing.
I don't think that's traumatic.
Have you ever walked in on somebody jerking off?
Not that I know
exactly.
about.
So that's so.
But if I walked in on somebody jerking off, I'd be like, "Yo, put your dick away, bro."
No. But not just. It's not just.
Sure.
Like
let's go back to the situation that you brought up, right?
Okay. And this is not even all the time. Like I don't want to spend. All the
I show up to my mentor's house, and this person that I admire and I trust and I respect answers the door.
Bro, why you got your dick out jerking off? What's going on here? What the fuck?
In that situation, some people may say like, "Oh, like when you ask the person, well, why did you go in the house?" Right? Some people may say, "Well,
nigga, what do you mean? Why did I go?" It's Louis C.K. If I'm trying to be a comedian, Louis C.K. invites me to his place, regardless of.
Sure.
Fuck yeah, I'm going in.
So,
what am I
and I get that, and I respect that. I also think it would be fair to ask that person, like, how much are you willing to sacrifice for, like, the job
but that's presupposing you're going to walk in and he's jerking off.
So no, but if he opens the door and he's naked and he's jerking off, and you still enter the house,
how would I know that unless I entered the house? It's like, what do you mean?
No, he opened the door. He's at the front door. He's naked and he's jerking off.
Okay, I don't think that's what was going on.
I thought that's that's the scenario you presented. You come to Louis C.K.'s house.
No. You walk. I said you walk in, but regardless, I'll
leave. Either I don't enter the house or I'll leave.
Okay, and that's fair. I'm not trying to spend all day litigating this because I don't think this is the thing that we're actually talking about here. But all I'm trying to say is I can see a world where you'd be kind of fucked up after that because there's so many things that run through your head in that scenario of like, okay, you have few different choices. You can walk out, right? Which I feel like that would be a natural reaction, right? But then there's a thought that goes through your head of like, is this something that is like fucking normal that happens? And this is like a test or some shit like that. I'm supposed to like stay here for this. And maybe if I just suffer through this, I can get through the other side where maybe my career will take this, turn and shit like that. There's just so many different scenarios that can run through your mind at that moment that I can see a world where somebody can be like, your brain can be a little bit broken afterwards of just like, what the fuck was that? Like,
sure, yeah, you might be like, what the fuck just happened? Like, this is crazy. Like, did I respond it correctly? Did I respond incorrectly? Like, what happens next?
Yeah.
Maybe that stays with you. My question is just like, he did a really fucked up thing. I do think he acknowledged it. We don't know what he's done since. I don't know if he's like sought out therapy. I don't know if he's like donated time or money, as you said. I really don't know like what he's been doing since. But it's like, so I think that thing happened back in like 2017, 2018,
yeah,
right?
2017.
How long is this person not allowed to do?
I will maintain that it depends on the thing that is done, and that's a curious question for Louis C.K. And I think I love the way that you framed it of, if somebody's sort of done stuff to sort of make up for it. But again, I don't really recall outside of him admitting to it up front. Yeah. I don't recall him doing anything to like quote unquote make up for it. I think he just kind of just carried on and just carried a low profile and then came out with a comedy.
Sure, and it's like, if I've done something wrong, I've apologized to my family, my friends, to the people that I wronged. I've taken a step back from my career, from my limelight. My show was canceled. I stopped touring. I was like, you know what? I'm going to take time to reflect on what I've done, who I've hurt, maybe seek out therapy.
But you're projecting all of that onto him. We don't know if that's at all what he did.
Yeah, so some of that I'm projecting, but it's like, is it let's say he didn't do any of that. Let's say he just was like, all right, I'm just gonna, hide in the shadows for a little bit. And he didn't really do anything. Like, but is it like 1 year? Is it 2 years? Is it 3 years? 4 years? 5
I don't know.
years?
I don't know. But I think,
I don't have a problem with Louis C.K. having won the Grammy. I think the Grammy Association, I think they were maybe looking at the quality of the work. And they're like, hey, this is a great body of work. And
I don't know, dude. It's from fucking 2020 and it's 2022 and they're giving him an award. I feel like they went out of their way.
Maybe.
I don't know. But I think maybe even more than that it wasn't necessarily the fact that he won the Grammy. It was actually this article that was like the biggest question for me, because I don't know where I stand on him winning a Grammy, because for one, I don't give a shit about award shows, period. So I think it's all just bullshit. So I don't think really any of it really fucking matters at the end of the day. But then on top of that, I think, like looking at what he did and looking at like, I don't know what the answer to that is. I don't know if he does something like that. I don't know what he did personally. Maybe he apologized to the women personally. Maybe he did something for them personally. I don't know. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. Right. So I don't have enough information. And also like the thing that he did, it's like, it is sexual assault. I get, and I don't even want to get into that, because it's like, then that becomes like a weird fucking conversation. That's not even what I want to get at. The thing I wanted to get at is the fact that they were comparing this to like the Will Smith thing. And there's just like, there's like a number of different things that are like is different about the Will Smith thing.
Wouldn't compare this at all to the Will Smith thing.
So in the article that at least that you linked, that's what they were doing, and I thought it was a really fucking weird comparison.
Yeah.
For one, the only thing that would really make this really truly comparable is if Louis C.K. was at the Grammys jerking off, and that's like how they, and that's how this whole situation.
And then because he shook Will Smith's hand afterwards. Like that's the only connection here.
Well, like because like the reason why Will Smith's thing, like if this whole interaction with Chris Rock happened not at the fucking Oscars, if it just happened like at a party or meeting or whatever the case is, completely different story, right? Like not completely different. It's still fucked up, but also we're not having this kind of conversation around it, right? The reason why, like, so that's that, right? Like that. The reason why the Will Smith thing is a big deal is because it happened on fucking national TV in front of everybody, right? To my knowledge, I don't think Louis C.K. was on national TV jerking off, right?
Yeah.
It's still terrible. It's still, in my opinion, at least, it's still a terrible person, because who the fuck, who fucking does that? Just somebody comes over and you're just immediately jerking. Who does that, dude? You're fucking crazy. But anyways, that's just my opinion.
You know what's funny? This same exact thing happened, excuse me. Recently on a Southwest Airlines flight, a guy was caught masturbating on the flight, right?
What are you doing?
Several times, though. Like
several times?
Yeah.
How do we get to several times?
Yeah, so apparently he was caught masturbating on the flight once.
Jesus
someone
Christ.
alerted, the flight crew, and they came over to him. They said, "Sir, we need you to stop that. That's inappropriate."
Yo, what goes through your head at that
and then
moment, dude?
I think he did it. He was asked to stop masturbating on the flight. I believe it was like 3 times.
Nah,
and then like
I can't ask you 3 times.
His response was
after the first time.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to fight.
Who's sitting next to him? Who's just like, is it?
Yo, could you, but again, could you fucking imagine that, dude? Like being on a flight, nonetheless. You can't get away from this motherfucker unless you're like, yo, reseat me, and if it's a full flight, well, you're out of luck.
If he gets any nut on me, yo, I'm wilding, bro. Land this motherfucker.
Exactly. But you see exactly what the fuck I'm talking about.
But if I'm not sitting next to him, I'm just like, yo, that's crazy.
Nah, fam. No. But you just listed a stipulation that said, okay, if he gets any nut on me, yo, it's a wrap, right? But it's just like, yo, but that's why I empathize with people of just like, look, no matter what degree of that, whether he nuts on you, whether he, you just see it. That's, come on, dude. That's fucking, like, if and go with that, right? If somebody's jerking off just in a seat next to you and then nuts on you, that's traumatic, right? I don't care what the fuck you say, right? You may say, oh, I'm able to like not think about that. Nah, that shit's gonna fucking stay with you for like the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You're just on a flight and somebody's jerking off and then nuts on you. No, you're gonna need therapy for
I've
years.
never been nutted on by a man. But
and then to have that happen on a flight.
Yeah, that would be. Christ. I mean, listen, I'm an opportunist. You know what I need?
God, where are you going with this?
I need air miles. I need my. Listen, I need 4 round trip tickets.
Yeah.
Listen,
okay.
I'm gonna use that to my advantage.
But to get back to this whole
In fact,
thing,
I hope someone jerks off on my next flight because I need those.
You
air
really
miles.
don't. You really don't. But
don't know me.
Getting back to this whole Will Smith Louis C.K. thing is it's also a weird comparison because the Will Smith thing just fucking happened, right? Like it wasn't Louis C.K. thing happened like 5 years ago, so it's not comparable because the reason why Will Smith is being quote unquote, and again, we're being very fucking loose with the word canceled here because having your project put on pause is not the fucking same thing as being canceled, right?
Yeah.
Like Will Smith isn't going to jail. He's not having to pay money to somebody. It's
he
not
just
like
resigned from the fucking.
And what the fuck does that even mean? Because I think tomorrow, if he's like, "I'm back, guys," I'm
They'd
pretty
probably
sure
like,
it'd be fine, right?
Okay,
yeah.
Promise you won't hurt us again.
Don't do that shit again.
Yeah, that's all that's gonna happen.
You know,
and then he 10 minutes afterwards he got Best Actor, right? So
Yeah.
it's like there's no cancellation here,
right? And I guess if he got his award taken away or whatever the case, either way, like I really do feel like we're being very sort of loose and fast with the term cancellation, right? Like there's nothing right now that's like is irreparable, right? It's not like there's been a couple people out there who've been like, I'm never working with Will Smith again, guaranteed if the right opportunity.
he wouldn't work with you either.
Yeah.
Like
it's people he hasn't worked with in like 30
Yeah.
years. They're like, I'm never working with him. It's like, okay, shut up, guy. Nobody was trying to work with you anyways. But on top of all that, if we're trying to sit here and compare Louis C.K. and Will Smith, what they did was like magnitudes different from one another, right? But at the same time, like I feel like it's a weird. It's weird for you to throw that, like if you're trying to make that comparison, it's weird for you to say like, oh well, here's Louis C.K. winning a Grammy, and people are mad at Will Smith. We can walk
two different award shows.
We can walk and chew gum at the same time, right? So
Yeah.
you can both say, I don't know, that shit's a little weird to give fucking Louis C.K. an award after all the shit that's happened with him, but also say, well, Will Smith shouldn't go away scot-free. Like there should be some sort of penalty for walking on stage, smacking the shit out of somebody, and walking back off stage and acting as if nothing ever fucking happened, right?
So I get one of the points that's intended to be made here. When you talk about like, you know, essentially what this is about like consequences, right? And that's what cancel culture is, right? Like people do terrible things, they should be canceled or have to suffer consequences of their actions. But somehow, you know, these powerful men, right, in Hollywood, whether they be like actors or media people or whoever, seem to be able to escape cancel culture. Well, that's because cancel culture is kind of bullshit to begin with. So it's like, it's easy to escape it. You just have to like, you know, keep doing what the fuck you were doing before. Maybe apologize, you know, chill a little bit and then keep going, right? Like, who has been successfully canceled? Name one person.
I mean, again, it depends on your definition of canceled. But I like, you know, I guess the typical response would be Harvey Weinstein, right? But that's I mean, almost laughable because it's like, yo, he got away with so much for so long.
And I don't think like if you get arrested and you get put in a prison, that's not because he was canceled. That's because he committed crimes. Like he broke the law. That's not.
But I guess,
culture.
but I guess it is cancel culture in terms of he's a person who ordinarily wouldn't face the consequences to his actions, right? That he was able to get away with it for so long.
I think if cancel culture didn't exist, Harvey Weinstein would have still got arrested and in trouble.
No, but I also don't think that's like cancel. Like, and I fucking hate the word. I hate even saying about it, right? Like, but like I like the idea that Harvey Weinstein, I don't think he would have gone to jail because I don't think it has something to do with cancel culture so much as I think it's just his allegations were brought to light and people weren't afraid to like say, hey, these things fucking happened, right?
Yeah, I think for him it was just a matter of time, and it was like, you know, it took time for people to get comfortable talking about the thing, and then once people got comfortable,
right,
it was just a matter of time.
Which
it
I don't
had nothing to do with cancel culture.
But now it's just like everybody, you know, this person's canceled, that person's canceled, or this person's not canceled, that person's not canceled. But I think the summation of how I feel about this whole issue is that ultimately it doesn't fucking matter. Like, and let me amend that. I'm sure that the people that he, you know, did this in front of clearly it matters to them, right? And I don't fucking know them. So maybe they've gotten past it. Maybe they haven't. Maybe they're still working on it. I don't know, right? So for them, I would say that for sure. Like, I'm sure they're still affected by this thing one way or another, right? But in terms of like the greater, for the people who are writing online, Twitter, YouTube, IG, whatever the case is, right? It's like, I feel like the reason why I don't really have like a strong opinion about this is because there are so many other things. I watched, we had a financial meltdown in 2007, 2008, right? Where basically the bankers, the people on Wall Street, they gambled with
they all fucked up and then they got bailed out.
Exactly. And not one person went to fucking jail from that, right? We sit here and watch Caitlyn Jenner
kill somebody
in a car accident, right?
Woman of the year the next year.
But not only that, but like just ran for office.
Yeah.
Right? Failed miserably, but just ran for office, right? And like nobody talked about the fact that somebody died as a result of this person's actions.
We pick and choose. That's really
and I think that's where my head is right now is that like it really is just like looking at this Louis C.K. I personally don't necessarily I don't think it's a good look, right? But at the same time, it's just like, yo, whatever, dude. I don't give a fuck about the Grammys, period. So it doesn't fucking matter to me.
But you know what? It's crazy. 'Cause I used to love Louis C.K. He was one of my favorite actors. And then when that whole thing happened, I was like, all right, I'm going to take a step back from this guy because he did some fucked up things to some fucked up people. In my opinion, I feel like
he did some fucked up things to some people. He said he did some things to some fucked up people.
He did some fucked up things to some people. Did I say fucked up people?
Yeah, you did. Jeez.
Sorry, people. I think he's, whatever the social consequences that he's had to pay, I would like to imagine that he has, apologized to the people that he hurt. I would like to imagine that he's like taking necessary steps.
Maybe.
And if Louis C.K. puts out a comedy album or does a comedy special, would I watch it? Yes, I think he's funny as fuck.
Well, proof positive, he did, and you didn't.
I didn't know he did.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Because and I feel like he's not at the height of his career anymore. So it's like I'm sure people do shit all the time that I love, and I haven't seen it yet. But if Louis C.K. is performing at the Comedy Factory in Baltimore next month,
I'm not going to go see Louis
I would
C.K.
go
at the fucking Comedy Factory.
I would go.
Nah,
I don't give a fuck.
I'm good.
Tickets probably cheap
because there's always the risk that he's going to be jerking off on stage. There's always that risk.
Then I want free tickets to the next show. Listen, I gotta monetize this.
Anyways, let's move on quickly to our last story. This is sort of in relation to that Louis C.K. story, but I wanted to compare the two things, right? So we talk so much about cancel culture, right? And I hate cancel culture from the standpoint of both sides. I hate the people who just bemoan the idea of everybody's being canceled. I hate cancel culture. I hate it. It's insufferable listening to people just bemoan the idea of supposed cancel culture when really they just any sort of slight criticism you might have of somebody is considered cancel culture, right? Oh my God, you're canceling this person because you dare have a problem with something that they do or say, right? But then the other side of it too is, oh, everybody must be canceled because of any slight thing that they might do or say. Now, there are people who do very fucking heinous things that clearly should be held accountable, right? But what I would really want, I want a social experiment, right? For everybody who has anything to say about anybody else, right? Like, so for instance, there's people who, like Chrissy Teigen. Perfect example, right? Where she's been an advocate and she's been very strong against certain people, and then comments from her past came up, and she was then unceremoniously, quote unquote, canceled, even though she's not fucking canceled even a little bit, but by, I guess, public definition, she would be canceled, right? And what I would love is for whenever anybody sort of makes a comment about somebody else in terms of like, oh my God, look at the things that this person said 10 years ago or whatever. What I would love is just for some sort of like information icon to just come up and be like, oh well, here's what you did 10 years ago,
Yeah,
or some shit like that.
I wonder if in the future you're gonna be able to just pull up someone's track record. Like,
yeah,
there's gonna be an app
like
where you just take a picture of their face and you're like, oh shit,
but
you did some fuck shit back in.
But it sucks, or it doesn't suck, but like it's proper, I guess, for famous people, right? For people who are in the public eye, for shit that they say and do to just be highlighted because they're famous, right? So of course everything that they say and do is going to be highlighted, right? It's different when you're just, I work at Kinko's, and I just talk mad shit on Twitter, like that's a different vibe because nobody's checking for you, in terms of the shit. Nobody's cataloging the shit that you do and say, right? So it's like if you had to live by those same standards, I wonder if you'd be as vocal in saying shit when people can look at your track record in the same light that they look at everybody else. But that's just, and that's neither here nor there in terms of like the whole thing about cancel culture. That's just, what I want, period, for everybody is just empathy. Just empathize with how other people feel. You know what I mean? But in any case,
as a not too empathetic person, I don't know.
No, I think you're highly
I think the world. I think we empathize too much.
No, wrong.
I think we tolerate the intolerable because we're supposed to be tolerable.
But again, definitions matter. What the fuck does that even mean? And
so it's like
tolerable.
So like we as a society, like we'll tolerate shit like there'll be like a mass shooting, right? Like, and that's something like our gun laws in this country should be intolerable. Like we've seen mistakes made too many times, egregious mistakes, people being shot and killed, the Las Vegas incident, Sandy Hook, like there were like fucking 50 school shootings.
Well, I think there was one that just happened just now in Sacramento, unless I'm mistaken.
There's a school shooting all the time. We're desensitized to it. But one thing we don't do is we're willing to tolerate it. Why? Because one of the amendments or something that says like the right.
But
to
what
bear
does
arms.
empathy have to do with it?
Because we should empathize with the fact that, hey, this thing that we thought was okay is no longer okay in our society. The amendment that allows privilege of for people to have like automatic weapons needs to be amended, but instead we sympathize with like, oh well, the amendments say you can. Yeah,
that's not at all what I'm
say
talking
it
about.
Like.
Yeah, I guess
so what I'm saying is like we as a society, like again, and I think it goes to, this is my point. We tolerate what should be intolerable, and I feel like we're empathetic to the wrong things. Sometimes we're too empathetic to things that we should not be empathetic towards because it's just wrong, and we just need to have like more hard lines. And certain things need to be black and white, but we try so hard to like live in the gray and be too empathetic.
But I think that's sort of the scenario we're in, right? Is what you're saying is we should create hard lines, but the problem is what are those hard lines? And I think that's because that becomes the harder conversation, because what you think is hard lines is clearly different from what I might think is hard lines, and we have to figure out what the healthy in between is if we're to meet in the middle at all, right? I suppose what I'm talking about is like person to person, right? To empathize between two people. Before I condemned you, as and there's I'm not religious at all, but I always remember the quote in the Bible where it talks about, before talking about the speck in your brother's eye, look at the log in your own, or something to that effect. Something.
What the fuck does that mean?
It means before I start throwing shit at you about that speck in your eye, or you've got this little thing in your eye, I want to talk about that thing in your eye. Perhaps I should take a look at this long ass thing in mine and perhaps search internally first before I start condemning you. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that.
What would you agree with?
I've done some terrible things in my life, but if I'm in a room with like R. Kelly, like this nigga's worse. Okay, and I can say that, and I know that's true. So fuck him. But let's take care of him first.
But I suppose that's the world we all wish we lived in, whereas it's so easy to define people as like, oh yeah, R. Kelly better than that guy, right? But it's harder when it's just person to person. When it's just like one for one, you don't know that person's history, but they do anything, and you're like immediately jumping on them, being like, you piece of shit, you da 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 blah. But knowing that you have some dirt in your past, and then perhaps they just don't know about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I get that. But
yeah.
I think in certain situations we could say like, hey, this is far more egregious. Let's tackle this first.
But I feel like that's what we're always doing in order to escape the shit that the whole, and
in order to escape our judgment.
Exactly.
Point the finger at others.
Exactly. Because again, the reason why Will Smith felt validated in that moment to walk on stage and slap Chris is because he felt like he was defending his family. But in reality, he was just being a fucking bully, slapping the shit out of somebody that didn't fucking deserve it. Like I think even Jada came out with comments.
She was like, "Oh, I wish Will."
I don't think it was made comments directly from her. I think it was through sources or whatever that this is kind of what she's thinking. But even they're forced to admit, yeah, that was kind of reckless.
Listen, like if I've heard people say like, oh, they sympathize with Will Smith and what he did, and he felt like he was defending his wife, blah blah blah. Listen, if the police arrested Will Smith right at the Oscars, I would have had no problem with that.
Nah, that's not a good look. Because I thought about that too. I can't have Will Smith being arrested on
but that's because we feel a personal way about him. But at the end of the day, he assaulted someone.
No, for sure. I think ultimately you're right. I can't. I can't have
again.
that on
this
TV.
is where we pick and choose, right? And that's the problem.
No, you're and I'm fully like aware of that.
If the cops arrested him at the Grammys, I would have no problem with that because he did something wrong, and we should keep that same energy.
Here's the distinction of what I'm saying to you. I'm saying you're right. All I'm saying is, I don't think I want to look back and think about that and think about how Will Smith was arrested on national TV for slapping the shit out of Chris Rock. I'm fine with the way that it played out. Maybe perhaps afterwards, if they want to like arrest him or whatever, cool. I can't way with cuffs. Like the whole optics of that is just.
It's because you don't want to see it, but like again, it would have been the right thing to do.
Sure. I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing with that. That's fair. That's fair.
And this is where I talk about certain things need to be more black and white, and
but again,
we like people, we're like, oh, we're willing to accept it.
We're going around in circles because what is black and white? But the whole reason why I even bring up this topic is, and this is the last time we're going to talk about Will Smith on this podcast, right? Like I find no reason to talk about it. Even if there's some sort of massive update later, I don't give a shit. There's too much fucking Will Smith conversations happening right now, right? But the reason why I wanted to compare this is because it's really fucking interesting, the dichotomy between what's happening with Will Smith right now and Ezra Miller, right? In both situations, I think that we use the terms cancel culture really disproportionately in really weird fucking ways, right? So for Will Smith will say, oh, Will Smith is being canceled because there's been like, I think Netflix is backing away from a project with him. Not even canceling the project, literally not even canceling the project. Just we're pausing the project. Right?
We're going to take 30 days.
Apple TV is pausing. I think I think they're doing something with him. There might be somebody else.
I think Bad Boys 5 was like
4. I think it's 4.
Put on hold. But all that shit's going to happen.
It's going to fucking happen, right? Ezra Miller. So Ezra, for those who don't know, Ezra Miller is DC's Flash right now. Currently, they're about to drop the first Flash movie, and he's done some, shall we say, some batshit crazy stuff over the past few weeks. Right, even before that, months ago, or maybe even a year or two ago, he had an altercation with a woman where he basically choked her and kind of threw her to the ground.
Yeah, that was at a bar in Iceland in 2020.
Yeah.
He like choked a woman, and then in January, there was a thing that happened in January where he like made some like threats against members of the Ku Klux Klan, where he's like, "Well, you guys should kill yourselves. If you don't do it, I'll do it for you."
Yeah, that I imagine not everybody has a problem with.
I like that one. I like that one. That was good energy. That was good smoke.
Okay, but that actually. And it's a weird side note, is when somebody's crazy on our behalf, perfectly fine with it. When they're crazy and it's like not for some shit that we're for, it's just like, what are you doing, right? And I found it to be really fucking weird, right? We're like, good with crazy.
If you're crazy against like something, again, if you decide, hey, I'm no longer going to tolerate something that should be intolerable, like racism, and I'm not going to tolerate the Ku Klux Klan. Fuck you guys. And I think we should be more like that. We should not, like, why the fuck does this known terrorist hate group still?
But that's, I
exist?
guess that's and I just watched the West Side Story, so that's one of the things that I feel like is actually increasingly getting more worrisome for me, just in general in our society, is that in order, like, hate begets hate, right? So it's like, if you what's the plan here? Are we going to gather all the Ku Klux Klan together and just like fucking just put them in a pit and then just fucking AR-15s just let loose?
That's what they did with the Black Panthers.
I don't
Loosely.
think they,
Fred Hampton. I mean,
and that's fair. But again, hate begets hate. So that it's not as if that event happened and everybody's like, oh man, all right, I guess the racist ass police and I guess they're cool, right? It seems like it gets increasingly like, hey, you did this to us, so forever is fuck you on site. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's and so what I'm saying is that's like, there's nothing good that's ever really going to come from that. It's only like, because then when you retaliate, then it's
sure.
fuck you.
I think in this example, even the United States government, the FBI, identified the Ku Klux Klan as a terrorist.
No, but I guess
so
what I'm saying,
I feel like we should dismantle this.
No, and that's fair. But what I'm saying is, what Ezra Miller was like, I'm going to like kill all of you. It essentially was what he was saying, right?
Yeah, he said, you guys should take your own guns and kill yourselves. We'll do it for you if that's what you want.
Right. So what I'm trying to say is I don't think that actually like solves anything if you're like, I'm going to like just go and kill all the Ku Klux Klan members, because it's like, then what happens to their children? You think their children are going to be like, I guess you killed my daddy. That's fine. Like, no, It's going to just create the same shit. Right?
Sure. I don't agree with that, but I do feel like I think his energy is what I agree with. Is that like, hey, we should no longer tolerate.
No, his energy when he's talking about the Ku Klux Klan is what you agree with.
Yeah. I'm saying that's what I agree with. I don't agree with the hitting women in bars in Iceland.
But I'm saying it comes from the same person. Like, you know what I mean? So what my thing is when somebody's crazy on our behalf, perfectly fine. They're perfectly reasonable, but when they're crazy just in general, we're like, whoa, what's happening here? But it's all coming from the same exact place. The same people who talk about Will Smith, right, in terms of they like what he did, they like that type of energy, right? But if any of the circumstances had changed, if it had been a white dude that came up there and slapped Chris Rock, if it had been a woman that he had slapped, if any of the circumstances changed, the script immediately flips, even though it's the same person doing the same thing for the same exact reason.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I get that.
So the reason why I bring these two up together is that in Ezra Miller's situation, I feel that the conversation around him is a lot more like kind of tepid, of like the WB is now getting together and having conversations about like what to do about this Ezra Miller situation. It's like, motherfucker, he choked a woman, he threatened some people's lives who bailed him out after he fucking was belligerently fucking yelling at people on stage at a karaoke bar and grabbed a mic from a woman apparently. And I should say they, my apologies. Ezra Miller uses they, them pronouns. But the whole conversation around Ezra Miller is a lot different than what's being said about Will Smith. But in both scenarios, neither of these two people at this exact moment in time as we're looking at it are being canceled. So why are people trying to pretend as if it is? Like, people are making Will Smith out to be some sort of like super victim of like the world's coming down on Will Smith. But it's like, yo, if you walk on stage and you slap somebody in public, there has to be repercussions to the thing you did. Does there not? Like, like I don't understand. Like, in what world do we live in where that happens and we're all just like, nah, fam, let that ride. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like,
as much as I'm done with the whole Will Smith thing, I'm also done with this whole Ezra Miller thing. I think DC's fortunate enough that he's not as big as Will Smith, so they can handle this somewhat quietly, or they can maybe take their time on this. I do think that like this guy has some consequences coming towards him. I feel like the people that he's assaulted and hurt would like to see that, and I hope, I hope that happens. And obviously, they've got the Flash movie in production that's going to come out. If DC decides to step away from him as Flash in future upcoming projects, I think that's like in order. If they decide not to,
and also he's a Fantastic Beast as well.
Yep. If all these companies and production companies decide not to step away from him, I'm curious as to like what their justification is. But these situations are tough because like they did something wrong, but like their celebrity has protected them in a way. And I feel like we allow, like the problem is like a society, we allow it, right? Like based off of what you said earlier, right? Mm-hmm. Will Smith assaulted someone on stage. If the police walked in and arrested him, I would have had no problem. I'd have been like, damn, Will, you know what I mean? But it would have been the right thing to do, but you said that you wouldn't have liked to see it, right? Not because it was a wrong thing to do, but because it would be Will Smith. And I feel like we are
I mean, but I can say
we're too willing to forgive the people we like for doing the wrong things.
That's not me saying like I wouldn't have said like if I had heard Will Smith had been arrested because of that, I wouldn't have been like, oh,
you just wouldn't have liked to see it. Like,
I don't want to see that on national TV.
Neither
like,
would I. But
played
like,
on repeat. Like
at the same time, like it would have been justified, and I'm willing to like agree to that as much as
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just feel like I don't know what's going to happen here with this Ezra Miller guy. I'm tired of talking about him. He does definitely at this point. I think you alluded to the fact that it might be a mental health issue. The last episode when we talked about this,
yeah,
I just think he's a dick. And I hope whatever consequences are coming to him, find him well, and he pays for his consequence. He suffers those consequences, and we can move on from this shit.
Yeah, I think my main point with all this is the whole idea in both directions of this whole idea of cancel culture, so to speak. I really do wish would just die. Like in terms of at the drop of a hat, if anybody does anything, if anybody says anything, if there's stuff in people's past, like I'm not saying that people shouldn't be held accountable. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that it's different when somebody is rich and famous and perhaps you dislike them at least in part because of that. And you're like, hey, here's this really fucked up thing that they said or did in their past. But so for instance, there's and I know people kind of hate him, but I'll use Jank from the Young Turks. I know you don't know who this is.
No idea who this is.
That's fair. But like he said a lot of like wild shit like back in like the early 2000s. He wrote like a blog or whatever, and it was just like really sort of like fucked up like towards women and shit like that. Clearly he was like Republican back then, and he just really thought that that's what he needed to do in order to like kind of be sort of shock jockish. But then he's clearly like turned a very sharp corner in terms of that's just not what he's about, at least today. But when he recently like ran for office, and it's like as soon as he ran for office, people started bringing those type of things up, and it's just like, well, like let's look at like the things that he's actually fucking like done. Like he's done some really fucking good things, and clearly he does not hold those same views if he ever at all believed in what he was saying back then. So that's the part of it I wish would go away. But then also too, for the people who would say nobody should be held accountable for anything, and it's just like, well, fuck it, it's a lawless land, everything's cancel culture, and it's just like, if you critique somebody, that's cancel culture. You can't cancel. It's like that's not. I don't think anybody's being fucking canceled in this situation.
I think we're listening to the
down.
wrong people. That's that's really what society's problem. We're listening to the wrong people.
But isn't it our fault? But isn't it our fault for giving those people the mic? And this is a thought that's been, and we'll wrap up like in a minute. But on this last thought is like the way that the world is, right? I understand that there are people who intentionally make the world the way it is, especially here in America. But in a weird way, like, isn't that, like, doesn't that like sort of like make sense in terms of like, and I hate that I'm saying this because it's like it's not like a fully formed thought yet, but it's like people, the reason why the world is the way it is because to a certain degree we just like kind of how like you were saying, like we kind of allow it, right? Like that, we there are people who follow Trump around as if he's like a god, and it's like, yo, this dude is the most easy. Like if you had a lineup of people and you're like, who's the fraud? I'd immediately point to Trump and be like, that's the fraud, because it's so easy to see. But yet there's people who follow him around like he's the fucking Pied Piper, and the reason why we have this world, isn't it because to some extent we like allow it to happen?
Yeah,
like
I said, we tolerate the intolerable, right? And when I talk about like things need to be a little bit more black and white, the question that everyone's gonna ask is like, oh, what is black and what's white? We just need to like draw some hard lines. Like this is black and that's white. We're not gonna have this fucking this conversation anymore about what the gray area is. No, I feel like.
Like what? Give me, and we'll wrap up at this.
Perfect. Last time I talked about this, Will Smith slaps Chris Rock. Will Smith assaulted someone. He should have been arrested. That's very black and white. Assault, arrest, right? But some people be like, oh, well, like he had to raise his justifications. Like no,
if the person doesn't file, Like if the person doesn't.
Sure. Chris Rock chose not to file
or press charges.
Press charges. So then, the cops do not move forward with the arrest. But if he did choose to file press charges, then he should have been arrested. And it's that simple.
But it's okay. So like for instance, like say, and I know you've been in a few skirmishes in your time. In any of those skirmishes, if you put your hands on somebody else, do you think it's proper for the cops to immediately step in and arrest you?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Like, I mean, the law is the law, right? Like,
that's fair.
I've been in a lot of fights, and in most of them, I should have been arrested. I wasn't for.
So then, what makes you then go out and do be in a fight again? Like what?
Nigga say something. I don't know.
Jesus. Okay, all right.
I'm just kidding.
And that's where we end.
Who knows? I don't know. Who knows why we do the things we do? But like, we should all be held to the same standard when it comes to consequences.
Fair enough. I can't argue with that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're out of here. We might be coming to you from a different day and different time next week. Schedules are changing, and we're trying to figure this shit out. But stay in tune for that. Next week might be a different time and date. But in any case, we appreciate you guys listening. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that share button, share the shit with anybody and everybody. With that being said, I think we will hit the very usual protocol.
Out.
Peace.